What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Titans Eternal, as we are bringing you tonight this grand final of Mid Gaming Crashouts versus SYN Solo Pickle. I'm your play-by-play caster tonight, Malco, joined tonight by not my most familiar face, but I'm glad that he is here tonight with me. Koryak, how you doing tonight, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good, Malco. I don't typically do color, but, sometimes when you're in a pinch, you just need a little bit of hand, and that's me. Thank you so much for inviting me onto this. I'm excited to see the fight between SYN Solo Pickle, what a name, and, of course, Mint Gaming Crashouts. Two fantastic names to start off with. Looks like we're immediately going into the draft mode for this. Any predictions here, whether it's correct or tied to the teams whatsoever? Anyone you want to see? I'll start with that.
So, from what it's looking like right now, obviously this is a tale of a grand final between the first and third teams in respective. But from what I was hearing, some people kind of suspect that this could potentially be a full 5 game series, just based upon the
Hmm.
skill set of both of the teams here. From what I know, actually, some of these players also cast in Titans Olympus, and I get to potentially cast them, like a Concerned Badger. I've casted Phenomenal, and also Solo Mason, and all of these players have shown some very good prowess in their respective roles. Concerned Badger is one that I consistently always watch out for, just because in that mid lane it always seems like at first he has like some back footing, like he's on the disadvantage, and then all of a sudden he just turns it up on go. And I'm actually not going to be surprised if, since Solo Pickle ends up overall getting this game won. They have very good team composition, or at least team fight wise, they have really good composition with one another, and they really like to be like that type of team where they want to team fight you. They want you guys to walk into them and fight them, and they usually utilize their macro to come out on top. And so that is kind of the big thing for these two teams, is that how are you going to get around team SYN Solo Pickle, wow, how are you gonna get past their ability to team fight so well? And that's gonna be the big thing for mid gaming Crashouts here. We do see that we do see a lot of bans. There's only one ban on the map here, as we do see a Blitzcrank ban right now, being the one that's the for mid gaming Crashouts. And we're gonna see the picks here, as the first pick gonna end up being the Ash for SYN Solo Pickle, and then we're gonna get the Mel Nami actually combination here. So I know some people like to do a weird thing where they like to go like Mel like ADC as like a really weird flex pick, but I suspect that it's going to be mid lane Mel there, and then we get the combination again with the Seraphine as usual, one of Ash's best partners down in that bot lane, even though there's a lot more that could be enabled. And we get the final pick, as it's going to be Phoenix Feller going on the Nocturne for the side of SSP, and MGC should be doing their last pick of the first round here, and we will see momentarily. But I suspect that it will be, oh, okay, Olaf. I actually kind of like that. You know, he could just kind of face tank the arrows with the Ragnarok, and then still keep charging right at you. He actually can go right past even, like, say, like the Seraphine Encore and things like that. So I kind of like how this is looking for MGC so far.
I do like the note that you pointed out here with SSP looking for a lot of macro. When you, of course, you think utility, you can actually get a lot of macro out of Ash, just simply because of her crystalline arrow and the range that it's got. It pairs really well with Nocturne. She doesn't necessarily need to be in the same range. She just needs to plant it right down middle. And of course, Seraphine's got plenty of time for plenty of those rotations. They should have a very solid laning phase. It should be very solid performance overall, plus with the paranoia with Nocturne. But I do like your counter argument here. We've got Olaf to sort of just charge his way directly through. He can pop Ragnarok, ignore plenty of those things. And when I look at the other team, there's a lot of CC going back and forward, because something I think people forget about Mel, people focus on her damage. Maybe she could be mid lane, maybe she could be always like that. But I think a lot of people ignore the fact that she has Solar Snare, and Solar Snare is an insane stun. Sure, you have to hit them almost dead center for it in order for it to get off effectively, but it's still a very, very powerful ability. And then, of course, we got Tidal Wave. Our next couple of picks, though, it looks like we've already got the top lane shaping up. We're going with a very, very classic Ornn, and we're going with a very, very classic Renekton, followed into Anivia. Anivia is someone who I've enjoyed making see a comeback. I was there doing or seeing LTA Grand Finals, and it was really exciting to see not only Anivia come back, but Ryze come back at the same time. Anivia less so, but she's definitely more prominent now, and we're getting someone who I didn't expect to see, someone who's kind of fallen out of favor, which is Talia. But we are right about the meta where comfort is a lot more important than the actual meta itself. So even though Talia's kind of fallen out of favor, this may be more of a comfort pick, Malco.
Yeah, and I actually do like to see that I was pleasantly wrong. The Mel is going to be for the bot lane here. So we're going to get a very, I want to say, decently AP heavy composition from the side of MGC, which can be kind of nice, because I feel like AP is a lot harder to build resistance against than it is for like AD. And so they at least give themselves a lot of like that burst damage, which I kind of like, because it's like, oh, you can keep rotating your spells as like spell weavers like Talia, like the Mel. You actually have decently low cooldowns enough where you don't feel like it's like an ADC like a Lucian or something, or an MF where they just put all their damage out front loaded and then it's just kind of gone. So I kind of like this composition. I actually do like this MGC composition here. And as you were saying, like we're seeing like other champions like the Anivia, like the Ryze are starting to make a comeback into the meta. Like they used to be not necessarily Nivea, but more Rise was definitely one of those champions that was just more consistently seen. And I like seeing that Anivia is here. Actually, I'm not sure if you saw recently. Oh wait, pops the ghost here. Solo Mason going in, trying to get the stun in root domination, being brought down to half HP. Nice level 1 trade right there, and that's actually a nice win from SYN Solo Pickle.
And that's showing exactly why that combination is so powerful in lane. The combination between Seraphine and Ashe, it's just an insane amount of damage. And Mel is absolutely no pushover. We see her in, especially if you spend some time watching the top of the leaderboard and look at the challenger players, Mel is someone who repeatedly makes an appearance there over and over and over. So I'm really not surprised to see it in the bot lane. You know, we are very much so in an enchanter meta. So, you know, it's not too unusual to see Nami. Nami's actually really, really powerful. And I think it pairs really well with their team, but that combination, that back and forward is just so hard to do with. And we're only about 2 minutes into the game, and we've already blown through at least a small amount of resources in the bottom. If we saw right there, it looks like Mel's already done with her second pot, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it will really begin to add up as time goes on.
And and even though the ghost was popped, you saw how it was kind of like, it shows how movement speed is like a hidden stat, where the fact that the Ashe was able to keep up with the Mel and keep dishing out those little auto attacks that even at level 1, it's like, oh wow, like we got to kind of be a little bit careful. Even as a Mel, you got to be careful. And with the nerfs to her W as of late, it's not as damaging to an ADC to be able to auto attack her through that W, you know, like it won't be just shredding you back like it used to. So I feel that for what this lane is going to be, even though yes, Mel is starting to keep up with the farm, it's only about a farm difference right now, Ashe has a lot more pressure here, and SYN Solo Pickle is going to try to keep that pressure on for as long as they can.
Yeah, and take a look at CS. It looks like even in top lane, we're not too different there on that one. We do have a first TP down. It looks like Espada has already forced a TP back. I'm not really too surprised by that. One of the things I see constantly that I think people like to forget is that Ornn can get kills in these early games. Ooh, go ahead. Looks like we're going to fight going on.
Yep, Concerned Badger going to be able to land the stun and get the wall, forcing Zuli back. Phenomenal trying to land the E. Not going to be able to do so. And will show them all is right there waiting to protect their mid laner, going ahead and backing off. While Fiendish Feller was right there and ready in case anything did happen. If we show them all was going to be like, oh, let me just continue this. If he had landed that axe, there was going to be a definite jungle versus jungle fight there as he comes back for the counter gank. So I like seeing these little scraps here, but both of these teams playing it very well to try to either deter away from fights or to take the advantageous ones.
Well, and I do like the wherewithal that Will Show Them All had in order to back off. It's easy to say, oh, there's a kill right there, but it's also easy to forget that Anivia still has that egg. Anivia can be very hard to pin down, but you do have Talia, so the opportunity was there, and I think what they're shooting for is that level 6. They're shooting in order to counteract Nocturne, because Nocturne very much so is just waiting for that paranoia to come online, and I think we're trying to counter that, which is why we didn't engage in that. And typically, I've seen a lot of games from Will Show Them All, just sort of, they're one of those ones that's popped up a lot for me. And how they typically work is if they are able to lead their team and sort of act as this tip of the spear, they can do really well. So they've sort of taught themselves over the last couple of months that I've watched them to, you know, sort of back off. They've taken some blows to their egos in a couple of the games, lost a few things here and there, just periodically over time. And I think that's adapted their play. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying that that's a good thing. It's nice to see these players grow and get stronger. And I think Will Show Them All is doing specifically that. And I think the pick on Olaf is also a good choice for doing that, because Olaf has a lot of tools to sort of weave in and out, even though his typical mantra is just essentially scream at you and run at you.
Yeah, and I do like the fact that, like you said, that having that, you know, kind of that cognizance to be like, okay, I'm not going to just jump right in just because I see the easy kill. And again, this is also the grand finals. I'm sure these players are really thinking, like, everyone's kind of playing a lot more carefully than you would probably anticipate from any other games. They don't want to take all these risks. They only want to be able to do things that's going to be advantageous for them. And Fiendish is already down at this bot side, but not really too much he can do with only being level 5. It would be a nice attempt at a gank, and it definitely will be once he gets level 6. Everybody's going to be worried about him there. But we'll show them all, though, to this first Drake here, and it's looking like he will be able to get it as Fiendish is heading towards his top side.
A little bit of an aggressive Drake, I feel, although I guess the ward did reveal that they're already down with that one. We are sitting at level 5. We can probably sense that is coming, and Nivea's making a good trade over here, and it looks like we're potentially shaping up to a fight that can kick off here any moment. Wall coming down.
Yep, Fiendish gonna be chasing down for Zuli. We'll show them all. Backing off the Drake. Gonna be trying to find him. Concerned Badger, though, already level 6. Gonna be able to drop that little bit of an AoE. Gonna deter them now off and get them off the dragon there. Nicely done by the side of SSP to be able to stop this Drake fight. And we'll show them all, though, still looking for something here. Phenomenal. Looking to pinch, kind of helping to try to pincer in between, getting Fiendish to be able to walk off. Hawkshot gonna reveal domination off to the Tri-Brush. And so this is going to be now SYN Solo Pickle controlling the area and potentially the Drake as well.
I'm a little concerned about this, although I guess we do have plants, and we did blow a lot of HP. Maybe they understood that Zulu had to back off because they took a lot in that trade. So this is working out, but I would still consider this a very risky dragon. We know that Will Show Them All was looking for something, but maybe they just did the math, and they were happy with the resources that they saw that were blown so far. But Anivia was pretty low. Even when she got those plants, we had maybe one combo, and, you know, if that's going to be enough is subjective, really to say. But they did manage to pull the first Drake off, and that is going to be the first resource really on their side. And something I want to note here is the further and further we get into this, the more tired these players are going to be. So even if we get some insane plays popping off, we've got to realize that, you know, their fatigue is going to be a resource that they're playing with. But now we're sitting about 7 minutes or so, and not an insane amount has happened. Everybody's waiting to hit that level 6, which it looks like both junglers do have. One thing to note is we no longer have a ghost on Will Show Them All. So if they are going to counter Fiendish here, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. We do still have, no, we don't have Crystalline Arrow yet either, so we don't have a counter there for that. So I think SSP has a bit of advantage because of all the resources that are blown across the map, because even Zulu is down a ghost as well.
Yeah, and whenever you look at that, it's like, oh, you don't want to beat down those summoners, especially when they are really good for in any type of situations, whether you're trying to chase someone down or whether or not you're going to need to get away. This is right now looking like, again, even though like the gold lead is on the side of MGC, it does feel like there's still like they don't have like actual like true firm control yet, and you kind of can't expect that in a game like this that's been kind of slow overall. Like what we've only really gotten is that one almost skirmish in the bot lane when they were going for the Drake, and that's about it here. So when you're kind of losing out on everything and not getting anything in return, and instead it's turning around and being given to the other team, that kind of doesn't spell well for you. But again, we're only 8.5 minutes into this game, so we don't have to worry too much, or at least MGC doesn't have to worry too much just yet. But they don't want to keep just giving things away like that if possible throughout the rest of this game, as we're getting a bit of trade down in this bot lane. And look at the shielding and everything just keeps them so sustained down there. I don't know how these two laners even fight one another when both of these healers are just so easily keeping them alive.
Well, there's usually a rock, paper, scissors scenario between the bot lane, between poke, between all in, and between sustain. And if you've got a poke comp like what we have here with SSP, and we've got a sustain comp, which is what we have with, at least with the bot lane with Ment itself, they should be relatively fine as long as they don't continue to get caught in like really unfortunate situations. The biggest thing to watch out for is just really the placement for Mel. If Mel steps, you know, half a toe too far out, you know, even the heals from Nami are going to be hard to deal with. It. I believe Nami still has the highest single heal when it comes to just the pure burst, plus the shields on top of that. So it can be very hard to deal with. Plus that tidal wave very much so is a counter engage. We're picking up the first little set of Void Grubs. Void Grubs, I won't say necessarily took a nerf, but they're nowhere near as strong as they used to be, especially when we don't have someone who's just super great at taking down towers. But I do like this. We've got Anivia making their way over here to take down the Crocodile, and there's Paranoia.
Little Fiendish fella gonna come out, Horn called down, gonna get the knockabout over neck, and he's trying to flee away, and we're gonna get Concerned Badger able to take that kill. Nicely done by the side of SYN Solo Pickle, securing the first blood of the game.
Absolutely. Batcher making a nice rotation. I do love to see this. I think mid laners are often too complacent sitting in the middle. Talia, for example, is someone who should be rotating as soon as they possibly can. Of course, that ultimate does a lot of work with that. We've seen that in T1. We've seen that in just leagues across the thing. That is one of the big things for Talia. The fact that you're getting out-roamed by someone, I won't say as immobile as Anivia, but someone who doesn't have the luxury of just saying, hey, I'm on the other side of the map now, you know, is a little hard to deal with. The fact that the Burbs made their way all the way up there, but either way, it worked out super well. The kill going to Anivia is not the worst thing. Tidal wave coming in.
Tidal wave gonna drop, not gonna be able to get anybody exhausted down, but it's looking like phenomenal. Gonna force the flash, the bubble almost landing there, but they're not gonna be able to get any more. Trying to make a gank down the bot side, but here's the Talia now looking for the wrong Zuli, gonna be able to secure that kill down inside, and Solo Mason now all alone, surrounded by 4 different members, but Fiendish Feller gonna get the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, able to land on the Zuli now, but Fiendish Feller gonna be able to get that kill. Yes, he will. The shove gonna be able to draw in Solo Mason. TP coming in from Conserve Badger. They're looking for the chase. We showed them all. Now pincered by the wall. Gonna have to use the Ragnarok to get away. CC immune. Can't get stunned up. No longer gonna be able to do so. The Q just needs to drop. Gonna be able to get the ice field around him. We'll show them all still trying to escape. Fancy feet from Concerned Badger. Gonna be able to stop. A wall gets dropped once again. And Concerned Badger still chasing him down. Not gonna be able to get the stun. We showed them all on that extended chase. Able to get away. But so much taken from him there as well.
Concerned Badger very happy to look for a lot of these different chases going over and over. Taking a free tower shot there, but look at all the resources blown. I think we only got a couple of kills, and it was a nice little back and forward, and I do appreciate the return. And I don't think that was as big of a waste of time. I do think Anivia being down a flash is going to be something hard to deal with. We should still have our passive egg, so at least we've got that for, I won't say escapability, but just for keeping ourselves purely alive. Another Drake falling in the background. That's going to be 2 already for SSP, and that's a little concerning for me for Mint. Mint doesn't have as good of a late game than SSP. We've got Ornn, who once he hits 14, of course, starts to scale really, really well. Ashe does consistently well across the board. You could argue that maybe Nocturne falls off about, maybe mid, late game. Not his utility, but like maybe his damage, his impact, to where he could still be very, very scary, and you kind of have to use his ult in a different way. But, I feel like, for the most part, we've got more of a late game team with SSP, and we've got, a lot of early game advantages, which a lot of times these later game teams struggle. We've got CS, we've got Gold, and now we have 2 Drakes. So, and we're only about 13 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, and that's not what you want to see on the side of MGC, is that you're slowly watching the lead kind of like, it's like you got that one little small cut now, right? And usually you can, it's like, okay, maybe we can't bandage this one up, maybe we got to get it like, some small stitches, because they're already just about a 1k gold up, right? But it's now like, okay, are they going to continuously, oh wait a second, paranoia drop, here comes the Call of the Forge God, gonna be able to knock him up, and this is the play once again. They just repeated it, and the Pickle this time gonna be able to secure that kill, and that's what they're probably just gonna keep doing this on repeat. And this time they tried to do the same thing on the bot side again, but they spotted out. We'll show them all this time, and Church Arrow not gonna hit Zooey, but now we're still getting the fight in the mid lane. Put the shove, gonna be putting him over the rocks, and now Zooey trying to chase them down, able to land a bit of damage, but they're gonna have the Glacial Storm just separating them away from the Anivia. The fight is still here, as Concerned Badger wants to try to do this, but we'll show them all is ready and waiting in case he does decide to step up a little too far. Seen on the wards, so now the fighting has stopped. The Talia instead just goes towards the blue buff, and that is the end of that.
And something that's really big here is we've been able to separate the gold. We've got 1 kill on top, mid, and of course jungle. So not only is our gold mobile, it's in multiple lanes. And I really like this. We've recognized that we have such a powerful combo. Ooh, looking for another fighter.
Ooh, gonna get the stun, able to land the Glacial Storm into Chilling Orb, gonna pop the wall to separate them. They don't know that Fiendish is there, and he's gonna be able to get it on the Shadow Streak. Nicely done by Fiendish to be able to take him out without even knowing that he was there.
Absolutely frustrating to have to deal with. We thought finally the burb overextended, but I think if you spent some time thinking about it, you would have thought, okay, the burb's not just randomly going up there. We may have ran up there, but even for like the Emerald Diamond level where we're at, they're not just going to randomly go into the enemy jungle without a very, very good reasons. There's a chance that maybe they're being a little bit greedy, but I feel like they should have just felt the disturbance of the force on that one. Either way, nice little kill, and put it on Fiendish. Fiendish now sitting at 2-0. The team looking very, very healthy, looking for a little bit of counter gank.
Oh yeah, here we go. We'll show them all. Dominus is going to be popped off. Ornn going to be trying to shove himself away. Going to be able to get away from them as well. That's going to be a spotter dropping his ultimate. And the little taunt there from the Pickle saying, you can't touch me. Look at that there. He has to be a little bit playful. That's just trying to show him who he is there up in that top side. And I really do like how they're playing this. It feels like for some reason just SSP has this constant like awareness of potentially where the Olaf might be, and right now it's kind of costing MGC a little bit of this game.
And I think that can come down to specifically game sense, but hopefully it's the call-outs from their shot caller inside the comms itself. They should have a good idea. This is how these teams should be working. You should constantly say, okay, Olaf is in bottom jungle, watch out, play back. Olaf is in top jungle. Okay, this is a chance for us to be aggressive. Or, oh, we saw Olaf here. We could see him taking these camps, which he's been on wards quite frequently. So they have been using that to their advantage. People forget how much of advantage just knowing where someone is really, really works into your team. And for the most part, the fact that we have this Ashe Seraphine combo, which I feel like it's a little early to pop it out in the beginning game, but if it's here and it's available, why not take it? And it does seem to be working for their strategy really well. Another stun coming in. Okay. Looks like a whole bunch of nothing. I thought it was going to turn into more of a kill, but I'm not sure if Anivia quite has that. But we've been able to counter Will Show Them All almost every place that they have gone. Fiendish has either been right behind or slightly ahead, just really dictating how a lot of these fights go. And at this point, MGC is really playing to the beat of drum of SSP, and they need to change that tempo in their favor if they're going to make any sort of headway.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that's going to be more, it's not even the fact that they need to change it. It's going to be more like they need to catch out a mistake from the side of SSP in order to be able to capitalize on something that can propel them a little bit more forward, even though it's only about it's about 2.5K gold lead at the current moment. 15 minutes in, we might be getting a fight right here. Solo Mason might be looking for that arrow, and he does. Zooey gets landed. Paranoia comes down. Tidal Wave going to hit them all, but the Encore going to be able to land on the two members. Fiendish Fellow going to go on a killing spree as he's able to take out the Talia. The Ragnarok popped, but not going to be enough to be able to deter them away. We'll Show Them All having to turn away as domination. Going to be caught by the Glacial Storm. Going to have to flash over the wall. We'll Show Them All taking a lot more damage. Doesn't have the Ragnarok to get away from the slows this time. Going to be buffed by the Nami to get away. And that's going to be the third Ocean Drake going. That's going to be the third and the Ocean Drake going over to the side of SSP. They are in complete control of this game at 17 minutes in.
Absolutely, and control I think is the appropriate word. We haven't seen SSP chase super crazily. The biggest was Concerned Badger earlier on, but they were essentially going back to lane. We were able to turn that into a third Drake, which means the tempo is more and more in the favor of SSP. They can choose later on to take Dragon if they want, or they could turn it into something else. They've got that pressure to play with, looking for another gank.
And here we go. This time he did not see him coming. Gonna give us the thumbs up, trying to fight them off, but he uses the TP, is able to get back under his tower. Oh man, the Pickle right now just kind of flexing up in this top lane, doesn't he? Look at him, just he's having way too much fun, I feel, up in this top side. I don't know if this is just his normal play, but this is crazy to see from this Ornn.
I think what happened here is that the Pickle went to the library, found a book on Espada, and has continued reading it over and over and over, along with Will Show Them All. Will Show Them All is not making bad ganks. It's just the biggest problem is SSP is constantly predicting where he's at, where he's going to go. And Ornn is already very hard to gank. And something I was going to talk about earlier is now we got Ornn sitting at level 15, Fiendish looking for an angle. Ooh, starting another fight once again.
Paranoia not going to be able to land the orb, but it's going to be just enough to get the kill. Fiendish Feller going on a rampage. And I actually wanted to point that out what you said, because I don't know if we can get like a little, like, look at this, but like, take a look at like all the vision that's on the side of SSP and where it is currently. Like even within the jungle of We'll Show Them All, it's you got blue wards here in the tri brush on their bot side, right here in the one brush that Concerned Badger is actually going around right now, and they're even clearing out more vision as we speak from the side of MGC. They just have this consistent know-how of where he is, and if they don't ever see We'll Show Them All on their current vision line, they can make the easy prediction of where he is. And it's looked like now we're about to get a dive as they're waiting to escort this Rift Herald up to the side. It's gonna die though as we're getting the TP. And Chaser Crystal Arrow gonna land onto the land to the jungle, but he's gonna use the Ragnarok immediately, make himself CC immune. Gonna get separated from the rest of the team as Fiendish Fella is staring down the Olaf. Gonna miss the Encore, and that's a big ultimate. This might be the fight that MGC is looking for, as two ultimates are actually gonna be down right now. Rucho trying to get away, gonna be able to get away on the Nami, gonna be hit. And it's looking like the fight has now just slowed down. Glacial Storm going to be taking them down, but it's going to be Concerned Badger getting caught in the middle, going to be taken out of the egg form. They're passive, now ticking down. They're looking to try to fight for the Anivia, but now it's going to be a shutdown going over to Spada, and this is the exact fight that the MGC is looking for. Now the Soul Storm going to be able to land. He's going to be able to get the kill, but now Fiendish Fella going under the tower, going to be able to take out the Nami, going unstoppable, but they're going to be able to get the shutdown, and it's going over to the Mel as they take down Seraphine off on the bot side, and it's a big fight that MGC desperately needed to be able to win there, and that's going to be a good one for them, even though there's not much for them to take on the map, and the Ornn has just been pushing up that top side the entire time.
Absolutely. I think it was pretty sloppy at the beginning for MGC, but they maintained a better consistency, and overall, it looks like we just continue to go over for it over and over and over. And I did mention how SSP was very good at backing off and knowing when they needed to back off, but I think the fact that Concerned Badger was behind enemy lines sort of pressured them into a fight and kind of baited the rest of the team. At that point, I would have just got out. You don't want to fight inside the enemy jungle, especially when you've got a Talia out and ready to go. Sure, you've got a Nivea and you've got walls, but it was Badger was the one that was stuck. But they did manage to get some gains off of it, at least macro-wise. Ornn, like you said, like you pointed out, was able to get their hands on a healthy amount of towers, so that is going to be something they can play into, but that's going to be a lot of much-needed gold for Mint. Mint is looking in better shape, but still, so far, they are very much losing this macro game.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, and I kind of figured that this was like one of those like standard like, oh yeah, we're kind of overextending our fights for unnecessary reasons. I kind of feel from the side of SSP, like they didn't necessarily need to stay, and that's usually something where like I feel like I'm not sure if maybe Concerned was like, hey guys, just back off, like I'm dead here, and that probably would have deterred a lot more of the goal that they ended up giving over. But now at least this is more of a fight for MGC to be able to come back into. Now they found that mistake that was necessary from the side of SSP to be able to kind of get them back into this game. And now with those crucial ultimates also being missed in there, like the encore went way far left than what it was needed to. I know they were trying to get the Olaf with it, but it just ended up like being like an over prediction of where the Olaf was going to be. And so without those crucial ultimates, then it was definitely the side of MGC who had the advantage in the fight. And now look at this, they're only 1,300 gold behind when they were just sitting at just over 3,000 a few moments ago. And I think some of those shutdowns went to really good places. The Nocturne shutdown went over to the Mel. The shutdown from the shutdown for Anivia went over to Espada. So I feel that we currently have actually the gold distributed in some really good places as well for the side of MGC, as they're looking to get a fight now. We'll show them all being shown on the map. They're not going to get stunned up. Oh, does now here the Glacial Storm gets caught up, but Concerned Badger stepping up way too far forward, might be getting caught out now. Phoenix Flutter going to pop the Paranoia, looking for a target, but not going to be able to find one. She'll show them all, going to be able to take out Concerned Badger as he continues to chase him down with the Ragnarok. The Encore going to come down, able to land on the 3 members, but what will it be enough as the Call of the Forge God going to come out, land on the 4 members. Domination is going to go on a killing spree as he's able to take out the Seraphine. That's it. 2 members drop from the side of SSP, and now MGC has control of this game and control of the Drake.
Absolutely. Sure, the fight was a little bit sloppy, but I liked the grouping we had for Mint. Mint has better consistency, at least in their team comp, in their formations in the fight. When it comes to the actual big team fights, it seems like SSP kind of begins to scramble the further and further the fight goes on. Their ganks have been good, the macro has been good, but their team fighting has been very, very lacking. They really, really just very much so seem to scramble once those fights kick off. And, you know, Mint's playing really, really well into that. It looks like they have a better team fighty team, and if we can get some more coordination, you know, Mint might be in trouble. But we've tied up our score 7-7. We tied up the gold about 40k to 40k, and we've been able to grab our hands on one of these Drakes, delaying that soul even further, and most importantly, resetting the tempo in their favor and then offsetting their tilt. You know, because being down as far as they were before does affect your mental over time.
Yeah, and I have to say this is kind of those last two were kind of off of Badger a little bit, being too overextended and just leading to a death, which then causes them to be down 4v5. And without that Anivia damage, that AoE damage that actually is quite substantial, it makes it a lot harder for them to be able to fight the way that they want to. And Nocturne, even with the Paranoia trying to get everybody to back off, he doesn't have a target to potentially go to. So if he goes in, he's only dying too. And this is like kind of like we're starting to see a little bit of what the downfalls that could be of the composition for SSP. And once they, like you said, once they get into these team fight situations with this composition, it seems like they're scrambling. Even though 1v1, it might seem like, you know, Ornn can still take on Espada, or you know, Pickle can take on Espada, Concerned might be able to still take on Zooey. It's still like, oh no, like what's going on here? Like, why are you stepping up so far? Like, especially in front of the face of a Talia Olaf. It's not something you want to be doing. Like, yeah, and again, like in this 1v1 situation, yeah, we can still see that Concerned still has an advantage on the Talia, but it's not necessarily the advantage that we want to see, as we'll show them all being shown here. But the Scuttle Crab is going to still go over to the the side of SSP.
Well, and both times those fights popped off, we mentioned how good the vision and warding has been for SSP. Another example is right here. And every time they fought, Paranoia in.
Going in, gonna get the insurance, gotta go wide. The encore lands, but the Talia is gonna live for so long, enough time to give him to pop the Ragnarok. Tidal Wave gonna go down, gonna probably tag Conserve Badger gonna pop the flash there. They get a kill, but it's not gonna really lead to too much for the side of SSP. Should be able to get this tower at the very least.
It does look like we've decided that we need to back off and not engage super heavily into these fights, and I do agree with that. We have got a great pick potential, which we saw right there. We were able to take down, of course, the Talia now City 1 fight that's really devastating and take down a tower. I would have liked to see them take down the tower on their way over there. If two of them had just AA'd on their path to that fight, that would have been less of a hasty retreat, but that's a nitpicky thing, I think. It could have been way more helpful, but I do like the most important part, which is the fact that they decided to back off. They said, hey, you know, whatever reasons we're losing these fights, whether we know those reasons, it's probably a good idea to back off, and we did do that. And there's no reason for them not to stick with the macro play. They've taken down so many towers, and they've gotten a lot of objectives in their hands. The biggest thing is, you know, as you pointed out, we got to get Badger from stop getting caught. You know, I think Badger got just a little overconfident with how it was going and continues to overstep without their team. So if we can watch that, you know, I think these fights will go differently. But still, every time these fights have popped off, it seems like SSP is continuing to scramble. We are looking for potentially a counter gank here, but you know, Ornn is going to be hard to take down even for Olaf. It looks like we're going to back off instead.
Yeah, and then they can't risk the fact that Zui might potentially be... Oh, not Zui, but Fiendish Feller might be somewhere. But Zui's actually going to end up getting popped off as Fiendish Feller's going to pop the Paranoia. They're going to end up finding the Talia right there, pinned away from the rest of the team. And that's going to be a kill going over to the Nocturne once again on the side of SSP. These consistent picks is looking like the new macro play for the side of SSP, and it's starting to work out for them.
Yeah, absolutely. No reason to change your strategy, and so far the only times they've messed up is when they've tried to engage in these full 5v5s. They knew that Olaf probably backed off. They fought inside the ward itself, and they noticed that there wasn't really an objective to fight over, and I think that's something a lot of people forget, is that League of Legends is not a KDA-based game. I don't care what anyone says. It 100% is an objective-based game. You can have all the kills in the world, and you can lose game after game after game if your macro is just not there, if you're not taking out these objectives. Because, of course, you know, if you have 30 kills and a dead Nexus, you're still dead. So it doesn't do a lot for him. Now we're looking for something to happen here, although I don't want to see them fight, because, once again, there's not an objective really to go for. We did get our hands on the Scuttle. That's going to be really good for MGC, because that's going to be a ward we cannot take out, and it looks like SSP has continued to take down these wards over and over and over. And I want to note something here. Oftentimes, he who controls this banana bush will end up controlling the objective as a whole, but we need to watch Badger, and we need to watch how this fight's unfolded. I think we're building up to one right now.
Yep, here we go. Talia gonna use the ultimate to drive the wall. Tidal Wave gonna come down as the Paranoia gets dropped. Finding Talia off on the backside is gonna be the Nocturne trying to get them there. It's Ragnarok gonna be chasing down Phenomenal, chasing down Solo Mason. A lot of damage being dropped, but he's not gonna be able to kill them all fast enough. Solo Mason might be able to get him before he does. And yes, Solo Mason gonna barely be able to live. And just Crystal Arrow gonna land onto the Mel. Mel uses the cleanse, trying to get away. Does be able to stun about 2 members, but not gonna be able to be enough. Fiendish Feller going on a rampage once again, able to catch him out. Now we're gonna see this is gonna be Concerned Badger trying to get a little bit more damage onto a Spada now forced to walk away. 4 members drop from the side of MGC, and SSP has gained the control once again. And instead of the Drake, is going to be the Bear. It's actually going to be the split between the 2 objectives, as the Baron's going to be started by the main laners of SSP, and the jungler is going to be doing the Soul Drake for themselves.
And there's no reason for them not to. Might as well continue grabbing these multiple objectives, and that was a night and day difference for the fight. SSP was able to not only focus, and you could see it very clearly between that and the other 2 fights, but they were able to have a lot of focus, and they were able to fight on their terms. Mint was very, very split apart, which normally is a good thing when you have Anivia, but it's worked really well for them when they've been able to bunch and they've been able to focus, but just that's not the case. That was a textbook change on how you want to see SSP take these fights, and they got so many objectives. The biggest thing, though, is they need to learn to stick the landing. They have this game in the bag. This is their game to lose, but Mint can still turn it around, because we're sitting at almost 30 minutes on the clock, which means that gray screen is starting to scale. So one tiny mistake, if Badger goes back to their old habits of just sticking their neck out a little bit too far and they get killed, just being down 1 member could turn the game entirely in their favor.
And especially when it's such a damage dealer like Concerned Badger, who right now has the Leandries, who has the Malignants, who is currently building to start countering this Nami with the Oblivion Orb and the fully stacked Rod of Ages. We're gonna see this is actually somebody really important that you don't want to lose out on in the game whatsoever. And that's something that they've been trying to target. Like, you will see sometimes it's like, oh, we see him caught out, go after him, we get that damage. They can't really fight without that Anivia, but we're gonna see here Phenomenal and Fiendish able to chase out will show them all as he gets knocked up by the side by the Ornn, and they're gonna be able to get him under that tower. And now look at what they're doing. They're starting to force them out of their own jungle at this point. Even it's just absolutely insane to watch. At first it was more about the vision control, and now they're getting absolute map control overall as you continue to push these towers. These Baron empowered minions going to be barreling into this into the mid tier. After the mid tier 2 dropping is now going to be the bot tier 2 dropping, and it's just going to keep pushing out even more. It feels like they can't get the angle here from the side of MGC to be able to find some kind of target, some way to stop this bleeding right now.
Navi stepping a little bit too far out. That's going to be Crystalline Arrow down, but that's not the biggest thing. That cooldown is next to nothing right now on Ashe. We've got 3 cannon minions looking here to try to take down the tower. That's going to be a lot of damage to that T3. We're only down to T3s for Mint. Although I think we're overstaying just a little bit here. We need to be very, very careful. We're not in a great position for a fight, but we are going to start one.
The Cords of the Forge God going to be deflected by the Mel, but that doesn't matter. 2 kills going over to Fiendish Feller as he finds the mid and bot laner from the side of MGC. These towers are just being shredded down as Solo Mason continues to quiver into all the objectives. This is looking like potentially even the end of the game. There's 5 members versus 3. Espada and Espada, the Nami, and we'll show them all going to be the only ones left as they're trying to clear the wave, trying to do something to save their Nexus in this first game, and they're not going to be able to do so. Espada just tried to desperately get into his fountain, but he couldn't. He's going to be slain by Fiendish. This Nocturne is absolutely unstoppable as they're going to take the Nexus, and game 1 is going over to SYN Solo Pickle.
Absolutely. Consistency shown through, and it looks like SSP was able to sort of get their bearings. A lot of times that game 1 is your wake-up game where you're just sort of trying to figure out how things are going to happen. And I think we saw SSP wake up in game number 1. There's still plenty of opportunities for Mint to roll over and to start doing better as the game goes on. But it's really hard to tell how these are supposed to pop off. Mint did pretty decently into their Mint Civil War, which was last week on this channel. So I think they have plenty of opportunities to take the SSP down a couple of pegs. They just need to identify their mistakes and sort of capitalize on that. And one of the biggest things is their mid laner, I think, very much so struggled into that. And I think that does make a lot of sense. While you can still play Mel, or not Mel, while you can still play Talia, there's a reason why Talia isn't super crazy meta right now, unfortunately. And I think we saw some of that, but a lot of that had to do on, I think, Fiendish Feller's shoulders, because they were able to act as a tip of spear for their team, which is what I was expecting we'll show them all to do. And they were able to just distribute the gold over and over and over. And aside from a couple of missteps, Concerned Badger also had some really, really great roams, played with the team. The synergy was just so good. We just need to be very, very careful with overstepping, and we need to be very, very careful with maybe just overextending on some of these objectives.
Yeah, and that was just, and again, like, they showed a couple of the mistakes that SYN Solo Pickle can make. Again, like you said, there was a lot of like overstepping that it seemed more specifically from Concerned Badger than anything else. But it looks like they immediately corrected themselves after those 2 deaths and was just like, okay, hold up, let me back off a little bit. And I think that was actually really good that they kind of started picking on the fact that, like, one, Fiendish Feller's ultimate was up so damn often that it's like, hey, we might as well just press this button immediately off cooldown every single time. The moment that we see somebody who's caught out by themselves on vision, let's just pop this button and see if we can catch them. In combination with the Chance of Crystal Arrow, they had a lot of map control just in that sense with some of the global ultimates that they were able to utilize and things along the like. And overall, just the way that the laners played into each other, I want to say that SSP definitely had somewhat of the stronger laning phases even. And it did seem kind of even at first for like the first 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden, like, we started seeing the repeat ganks up to the top side. We saw, I think, Pickle get one gank and then 1 solo kill. Oh no, it was actually 2 ganks by Fiendish up on the top side. They just repeated it over and over again up on Espada. So there was definitely a lot that was going on in this game that just kind of went SSP's way. But we did see them potentially show a couple of the cracks that, like, hey, they can get overzealous, they can overextend themselves, and then you can take advantage of that if you have the ability to do so, which we did see from the side of MGC. So I think for mid gaming Crashouts, if they can kind of if they can just capitalize a little bit more on those particular aspects and just kind of be like, okay, let's tighten up our laning phases a little bit more so we're not kind of falling down here. I think it'll be better. It'll be better in that sense. And then before we go into break, we will go ahead and also announce the awards for the Eternal Series as well. So should be getting those up right here, as you guys can see right in front of you. Titan Esports Elite Winter 2026 Player Awards. For the top lane, we got JP the Boss. In the jungle, Lagging Weasel. In mid lane, Concerned Badger. Bot lane, Solo Mason. And then the support role is Eli Chaser, with the MVP going over to SSP Concerned Badger, who is currently playing in this championship game, as you guys have seen. For the second All-Pro, for the runner-up, it's going to be his bot laner as well, SSP Solo Mason, where you do also see on the last two bits of awards, second All-Pro team, HPP Ohio Drive, MGC will show them all, MGC Zooey, Eli, my team is muted, in HPP Panda Boat 23, and for third All-Pro team, JRA Small Chow, SECC Blob Blob Fish, HPP, that's a long name I'm not gonna be able to say, but the Holy Bible, Quick Crispy, and SSP Phenomenal, who once again is also playing in this game currently. We see a lot of the SSP members and the MGC members actually up on this list, which tells you that we got some great caliber League of Legends players here in this finals tonight, and that should show you for these awards that give a round of applause to these people, as they have worked hard this season to be able to earn these here. So let's go ahead and you have any words that you would like to say about these awards really quickly before we get into break?
No, but I think the fact that SSP is on here, I believe that is 3 different times, is a little bit concerning for Mint, and that's going to be something that they have to watch out for. I do think there's plenty of opportunities for Mint to turn this around and win a fight, and obviously they won against some of the people who were on these boards, and of course these are just players to watch out for. But I think in that concern, that when we're looking at Concerned Badger, that is someone to focus on. But even though Concerned Badger's on this one, the fact that the jungler for SSP is not on here is a little surprising, at least to me, and I think that is going to be someone I have to watch out for. But Concerned Badger is clearly consistent across their games.
And I think that really goes to show exactly how, and that's why they're in this final now. Like, it's clearly some of the best members in the league are literally right here, not only receiving awards, but currently playing for this Eternal Trophy. So before we go into these next games, let's go ahead and think about it. Are you going to be able to bring it back for game 2, MGC? Or is SSP going to continue this lead and be able to make themselves the champions of this Eternal Series? We will have to find out, as we're going to be getting into the break before game 2. Don't go nowhere. We'll be right back. And welcome back, everybody, to Titans Eternal. We are bringing you now, as we're soon going to be getting into draft for Game 2 of SYN Solo Pickle versus Mid Gaming Crashouts. In that Game 1, we saw how it did seem like at first it was going to be much more of an even game than SYN Solo Pickle started, started stretching around their lead a little bit. After a while, though, Mid Gaming Crashouts able to find a really nice mid-game fight for themselves that was able to bring the lead back to them. But then SYN Solo Pickle tightened it up, started finding a couple picks, and next thing you know, they were in control of the team fights, leading themselves to a Game 1 victory. As we get into this draft Game 2, what are you hoping to see from Mid Gaming Crashouts to hopefully bring back a win for themselves in this series?
With Mint, I want to see a little bit better coordination, right? And I think a lot of that has to do with shot calling in comms. I want to hear and see them just sort of get into these combinations. And one of the biggest things I think that lost them that is they figured out their win con in the middle of the game, right? Which was sort of just making SSP sort of fall all over their keyboards and get overwhelmed, right? They found out that was a consistent win con. It looked really, really well, and then they didn't follow up with that. And that's much, much easier to say when the games get very long in the tooth. We're sitting about 30 minutes, right? Which I guess is average, but we need to go much further past that. Once you discover your win con, you need to play off it the entire game, whether you're fatigued or not. And I think that's kind of what happened to Mint. There's still plenty of opportunities for them to turn around. I would like to see them have a more defined, team fight identity than I saw sort of in the last one. They had a couple of sort of like good picks on each side, but nothing like really jived super, super well to where SSP had a very clear identity. We pop Paranoia, we play off of that. We have a lot of this utility, we have a lot of this, and we play off of it over and over and over. And it looks like we might be going for the same thing because we're starting off with Pantheon, but the immediate answer is going to be another very powerful meta Enchanter, which is going to be Karma.
And it looks like you were trying to rhyme the words there, and it almost made, that sounded kind of cool, which, that's actually very interesting that you say that, because I think SSP is another one of those teams that really do like to try to utilize multiple global ultimates in one game. And I like seeing MGC and how they responded, because Mint's like, hey, we know that they're going to try to utilize some type of maybe SYN Pantheon combination. Let's go ahead and take that for ourselves and utilize that global ultimate to be able to be more protection for our composition. And I actually seen this before, where Karma, in combination with Karma SYN, so much shielding coming out during the game, where it was so much protection for the carries that it was almost impossible to strike through them, and then they just won purely by that survivability. And now we're seeing for the side of SYN Solo Pickle that they're gonna be putting Concern Badger on that Aria champion that they're well known for, and then the Solo Mason gonna be popped on the MF, hopefully to be utilized as a big team fight ultimate in combination with the Pantheon, and the Xayah going to be the ADC pick for the side of Mint Gaming Crashouts as they go ahead and finalize round 1 of picks.
I think these are a couple of interesting picks here when we're looking at both of these, especially when we're concerning the ADCs, right? Both MF and, of course, Xayah pair really, really well into teams that are coming at them. If a team is running at MF not only has that movement speed, but we have that bullet time to play with, and, of course, we've got the ultimate there for Xayah with all the feathers that they lay down. So that's going to be really, really healthy to go into. And the thing that's really nice, too, about both MF and about Xayah is they can play by themselves. You don't have to babysit them quite as hard, sort of like Kog'Maw, for example, like that, or someone else in the bot lane. So that does free up the supports to pop them. The one little bitty concern thing I have here is not the fact that we picked Pantheon, but if we're wanting the jungler for SSP to be the tip of the spear, even though Pantheon has a literal spear, Pantheon's ultimate, in my opinion, works best after a stun, after a charm. So like Ahri pops off her charm, right? So we've already got that going. Ahri pops off her charm, and then Pantheon hits the ultimate immediately, or they queue it up before they even have it going, because Pantheon needs a little bit of time to get in their range. There is a little bit of a telegraph on the ground for them to see on their way over. But once Pantheon gets in there, we've got a lot of point at that person and murder them. And I really, really like this combination. SSP, once again, has a very, very clear identity. Pantheon comes in, or we set up Pantheon, and we absolutely lock them down. And Bessa can set them up, Rel can set them up, the Charm can set them up, and then we've got MF to either maintain their lane in bot lane or pop the bullet time. We've got a lot of not only versatility, but we've got a lot of to play off of Fiendish like we did previously. But the other team on their side's not doing too bad either. We've got a lot of sort of like, I don't want to say like AoE burst as in we have it's all pure AoE, but we've got a lot of like larger range AoE to drop down. We've got the Malphite ult, we've got Karma's of course empowered Q, which does a lot more damage than I think people expect to. C, and then we've got the global here for We'll Show Them All. So this is going to be a Shin in the jungle, and we're going to have a Kali in mid lane. I haven't seen Kali in the mid lane in a little bit, and I don't believe she's meta. I have to check my numbers again, but I don't believe she's meta either. But that doesn't necessarily mean that she cannot work. Maybe the idea is to sort of play with the mobility against Ahri, because Ahri can be a tough opponent to deal with.
Yeah, and especially in that the early mid game, you're gonna be, or the laning phase at the very least, is gonna probably be a little bit rough for the Akali, especially if constantly trying to go up to the wave. You're getting constantly poked by Concerned Badger with these Ahri Qs, which does a lot of damage. Even without the charm enhancing that damage, it still does a lot to be constantly getting poked by that Q, which is on a relatively short cooldown, even on level 1. So right now, it's kind of, I'm looking at the MGC composition and saying, like, you know what? I'm kind of suspecting, again, it's going to be a lot of, hey, we're going to play around the Stand United when we can. Maybe Zooey is going to be roaming up or down to one of the 2 lanes. That's going to be the immediate, hey, we're going to deliver the Shen into this fight. And that's going to be that's how we're going to play this game. We're going to play it by delivering Shen into fights, getting them to get these taunts off on the 2-3 members at once. And then we're going to drop all our damage down, CC them as much as we can. And we should be able to win through those types of fights alone. It just feels like SSP's composition feels a little bit more cohesive, if that's a word that I could use for it. It just feels a little bit more cohesive and telling.
I could say cohesive, but I think one of the biggest things is I think that SSP's team comp is easier to pull off, right? Comp is often what works more often. And another thing that contributes to comp is what is easiest to pull off. Ahri is not a particularly hard champion to play. You miss the charm, sure, that sucks, but everyone misses skill shots. That would have happened on someone else either way. But I think the team comp for SSP is much, much easier to play off of. I think that Shin Ultimate, the Stand United, I think that is a good strategy that they can, use to win fights and turn things around, but it can be really awkward. It's a lot like Tempered Fate, to where there's this strange delay. I would say Tempered Fate and Redemption are in sort of the category for Stand United, where it has this very, very strange delay. Sure, yes, you get the shield, but getting the timing down exactly right can be really, really awkward, especially in the heat of the moment. Sure, if you're in a practice tool, it might be a bit easier to play with, might be a bit easier to move forward, but that's much, much easier to be said rather than done. And, a lot of times everybody's got a plan until they get hit in the face, and that might fall apart for MGC. But we have seen SSP fall to pieces once the fights kick off. I think we need to watch out for a similar setup with SSP that we saw before, where we just have these constant layering of combinations, where they did so well. But when we get in the 5v5 fights, maybe it favors MGC. We do have a bit of beef on their end having to do with Malphite, and of course with the Shin. And then we've got a lot of escapability. Karma's able to lay down some nice shields and a movement speed buff. We've got a Kali to get out. We've got Zaya to get out. So maybe they can add to the chaos in these sort of team fights by just sort of like spreading out and messing with SSP. But they also fell apart when it. So there's a lot to play with, I think.
And I think we're gonna see it be very telling once we get into the team fight stage of the game. It seems like SSP composition has a lot more capability of also team fighting a little bit more, where it feels that MGC is going to be like a kind of like a little bit more of like they have to duck and weave out of team fights, if that makes sense, where they kind of have to wait for themselves to reload the gun and then go back in a little bit. Like they have to try to stall these out, where it just feels like there's going to be a lot more consistent chase down and a lot more consistent output of CC and damage coming out from SSP. So and they're gonna, so like MGC right here is gonna really be playing, I feel like, not only to try to kind of get the up on the engage, but also protect the president on domination with the Zaya, making sure the Zaya is able to consistently rush out a lot more of that damage, where Akali is going to be trying to look for a lot more of that pick-off damage, trying to get into that backline and stop that MF or that Ahri from being able to do anything within the team fights, which I think I really like the fact that you pointed that out too, where it's like some people miss skill shots, and for Zooey, I think these shurikens are going to be extremely important skill shots to be consistently landing, because that's kind of a big part of your engage that you do have from this fight, is the moment that you land that shuriken and you're able to find a member that you can go into, or use another one of the tankier members to deliver you into the back line, utilizing the shuriken into the ultimate, into the perfect execution. I think that's going to be what is going to be the big telling for MGC here, is if they can play around their composition's ability to be just all over the place. Shen is kind of slightly mobile and able to kind of distract people with the taunt, and if he can get it onto multiple members. Malphite causes immediate chaos with the Unstoppable Force, the moment he charges in, everyone is scattering. So I think that MGC has a much better composition here this time around to be able to play around and maybe make team fights go in their advantage. But they're gonna have to really try to take it out from SSP here, as we do see SSP blue side and MGC red side, same sides as the last game. So we don't see any other major changes other than the fact that the compositions have kind of changed for them, and they definitely have significantly different identities in comparison to the first comps. These ones, you know, not feeling so meta. It's just more, I think, on the side of MGC, it's more of comfort versus where right now SSP is just playing to, hey, we can definitely play these compositions and this is how we want to play the game.
Yeah, and I think something also to note here, too, that might be easier for Mint to pull off, maybe a saving grace, whether it's intentional or accidental, I'm not sure. But Mint has picked teams or has picked champions that are a little bit more slippery, right? So SSP did a very, very good job of saying, hey, we want that person dead, and then they made that person dead. But Akali is notoriously hard to, you know, track down. And then we've got Xayah doing the exact same thing. Xayah can be very hard to track down, especially with the fact that we have Karma here, and Karma can make them even harder to kill. Malphite might be a little bit easier to kill, but then they have the beef, they have their ultimate in order to get out, they have plenty of abilities to buy themselves some time in order for that. So Pantheon could come in and it could be completely wasted, and that could be a great opportunity for Mint to push the advantage, you know, where you see SSP going in like they did before, and they think, hey, we're going to get this kill, and then they're not able to lock it down, whether it's on Akali or someone, and then they have to back off. But speaking of first kill,
Flash taunt gonna be able to go in. Concerned Badger force the flash on the Ahri, and it's not gonna be enough to get the damage, but they at least managed to get that important summoner out of Concerned Badger there so early into the game.
Yeah, and Ahri not having that sitting at, what, level 3 right now, puts them in a really precarious spot. So if you're going to put the pressure on Ahri, you need to play it off of that flash. We do not have the ultimate in order for the extra escape abilities. So, you know, Ahri is very, very vulnerable. But the biggest problem is that Concerned Badger has been winning these 1v1s in lane more consistently. So unless We'll Show Them All shows them up sooner rather than later. Speaking of, like, right here, another charm coming in. We are able to save ourselves from a bit of damage, but Ahri really, Akali really, really struggling into the Ahri. And this is another good example of meta versus off meta. Akali was very powerful, weirdly enough, in top lane, you know, a couple of patches back, and strangely, specifically into Aatrox. They were very, very good at skirmishing and taking down Aatrox in the top lane, or if they had to worry about Aatrox in the jungle, they were a good pick for dealing with that. And I think it's going to be much, much harder for them to deal with, because like I said, it's not that it can't work. Meta is consistently what works the most consistently, and Akali has sort of fallen by the wayside. I've seen her a bit more and more about this patch or so, but a lot less so. Ooh, looking for another kill.
Gonna be able to land a stun on top of the Akali, forcing the flash out of her immediately. That's nicely done by Fiendish to be able to get the return gank onto the Akali, evening up this lane a bit.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was talking about here. You know, if on Talia would have got caught and died there, the fact that we have that, sure, we had to blow a flash for it, but Akali is significantly more slippery to watch out for that combination. And we already built a lot of resources on Fiendish. Fiendish is down a flash. That doesn't sound a lot, but for Pantheon, that is a good gap closer. We go in, we get the stun. Even when it comes to the ultimate, once we have level 6, if we don't have flash, it can be hard to get in range to get that first little stun. And while Pantheon doesn't have a reset per se, sort of like Viego, they very much so want to chomp on one target at a time and build them up to that execute, and then wait for their cooldowns to pop back up, and then hop on the next target, and they just sort of bounce from target to target to target. And it's harder to do that without that initial flash, or without the flash later on into the combat. And, you know, I think, you know, SSP is a good example of the punch in the face sort of scenario. I think if they get hit in the face too many times and things don't go the way they need to, that could be a perfect opportunity for Mint to move in and look for those kills. They just need to know when to capitalize on, and they need to know when their win con is.
Yeah, and I do like, again, like we're seeing here, it's really hard for Zui to be able to really compete with the Ahri just initially in this lane phase when it comes down to just constantly getting poked out. We saw it in the level 1 to level 3 where they were chunked down a bit, got the gank from We'll Show Them All as he's sitting there waiting. Concerned Badger hovering around that part of the lane, and it's Zui gonna be able to bait them in. Concerned Badger going in, gonna land a charm onto We'll Show Them All, and nicely done to be able to deter the rest of that gank, and that's going to be him on safety. So Concerned Badger not too worried about it, using the charm on the right target instead of using it on the Akali. Decided to use it on the Shen mid taunt, stopping the taunt entirely and allowing them to get back to safety.
Absolutely. And we're seeing a lot of control here from Badger. Badger knows what to do, knows when and where to use their tools, able to charm the SYN, stopping the dash, recognizing that's the threat is super, super good. That would be more of an issue if the Akali was a bit more fed or was a bit more scary, but using it on the SYN really, really helped them out. And this is kind of one of the weaknesses of SYN, I feel, is SYN's a little bit like Trundle, where sometimes they struggle to get in range. Sure, we have a dash, which the Trundle does not. Trundle does have, of course, a bit of movement speed to try to get in there in pillars, but I feel like SYN struggles just a little bit. Looking for damage here on Akali.
Jumps in on the Zui, uses the perfect execution to get behind the wall. Phoenix Fella going to be dropped as a second. R2 going to be the first blood going over to Zui. Nicely done on the Akali, but now a lot of damage being dropped by Sir Badger trying to continue the fight, and that's going to be it. MGC on the board.
And this is exactly what I was talking about. Akali being slippery and, you know, SSP sort of having a plan and then it falling apart as soon as it happened. That was a good angle, but you were trying to go for Akali. And so this is exactly where off-meta picks can work when we have this sort of Akali going in. You know, we're playing more for the enemy team themselves and preventing what happened last time. So at this point, I think that SSP needs to adapt. You know, Mint's very much so established that, hey, we understand what your plan was. We understand what your strategy was, and we have a tools for dealing with that. And I think that Akali very much so wants to get their time in the sun against Concerned Badger, because they were like 1-8, 1-7 or something like that by the end of the game, so they've got a lot to make up for.
Yeah, that's going to be this is definitely the game for Zui to kind of just prove themselves back in this mid lane, that they're going to be able to compete against Concerned Badger here, who once again is the MVP for Eternal this season. So it's definitely a big game, and it's a statement game to be able to constantly keep up with them on this Akali. Though it's kind of unfortunate to see Pickle though going in, wanting to keep fighting his spot there. It's kind of unfortunate to see that they do have this, even though like yes they were able to get the first blood, there's not really much of a lead to be given to the side of MGC, as we can see that the mid lane has a bit of a farm advantage, the top lane having a bit of an advantage, farm even for the jungle being in sight advantage. So they're keeping themselves constantly above SSP in the farm department, which is keeping the game fairly even. I think for MGC, we want to see Mint starting to try to like drag some of that lead away from them, as it's only 8 minutes into the game currently, but we want to see them just constantly keeping the foot on the pedal as they gain that first blood. Now you want to just continuously keep pushing that pressure on the SSP, try just to make them start making mistakes, so then you can capitalize on those mistakes and bring yourselves towards the victory. And I think they already know that, but it's just a matter of, okay, how can they execute that very easily without, you know, giving up too much in return.
Yeah, and I think once we start hitting these first couple objectives will be where the metal really meets the road. One thing I am a little bit concerned with is not that Ambessa isn't meta in the top lane, because top lane used to really, really favor this super skirmishing one, but Ambessa's not as prominent. We don't see her quite as often in the top lane as we used to. I don't have the numbers specifically for that for items, but I know she's significantly less frequent, so there's probably a reason for that in the meta, while Malphite has sort of gone up in showing up in the top lane more and more, and it can be a very hard target to go for. Ambessa doesn't necessarily need someone squishy, but she needs someone not like Malphite, who's got a shield. Malphite's got the shield that constantly pops up, and that can really mess with a skirmisher like Ambessa, like Pickle. But I really want to see this team fight phase, and it looks like the first to go for Drakes is actually going to be Mint this time, and I don't blame them. I think they have a lot of control here. I think Karma also puts a lot of pressure on that. And in these fights, one of the biggest things I want to watch out for is specifically Karma's tether. That's going to have a big impact on how she uses it. It sounds like such a small thing, but that little bitty stun, the little bitty root makes a massive difference. And then she's got plenty of other abilities to pop that as well once those fights really kick off.
Yeah, and that's just it. Like it's like she's like a pseudo frontline, you know. Like she kind of goes in, pops the shield, drops the root, try to get a stun, you know, try to get that root down on a target, and seeing if that. And I believe I don't think actually gives the heal anymore on the mantra version, if I remember correctly. But it's just that it's about the use of how well that she's gonna be able to utilize that. It's such a messed up ability that she's able to get that root, speed up, keep you. It almost feels like she's like a mini Morgana kind of. And then the moment that she gets that root and she stuns you up, you're like, oh, so now what can I do here? It's like, oh, I'm just stuck here for the moment. And it lasts deceptively longer than most people anticipated to last. Okay. So as long as she's able to, she can utilize it not even just for like, say, the ADC or something if she catches them out. Like, obviously, if like you got, she wouldn't actually be afraid of even like Fiendish coming up at her. It's like, okay, I'm gonna root you down. If you try to keep pressing forward towards us, you're gonna end up getting rooted, pounced on, and then it's over. So I think right now, actually, the composition for MGC is actually playing really well. The battle in this mid lane right now is absolutely intriguing. I really want to see if they could do it, like if one of them can actually get a solo kill on the other at this point. But it feels like Zuli is feeling really comfortable on this. Oh, I thought the Malphite used the ultimate for a second. It looks like Zuli is actually really comfortable on this Akali, getting the why can I not remember that item name for the life of me? But you do have the alternator, you have the sorcerer's shoes, and we do have the ring here to build into Magi's. And I think that if you're comfortable starting to stack those up, that means you're really gonna feel comfortable on this Akali. As a lot of damage being dropped onto Zuli right now, trying to get something, but gets the Spirit Rush out of the Ahri there, not wanting to further engage. Doesn't get the shuriken onto them, but gets the ultimate out of that Ahri. Nicely done by Zui to just keep the pressure on and not falling too far behind at all either in this mid lane.
Okay. Espada finally actually getting chunked here by the Investa. I'm a little surprised by seeing that. Badger has been able to keep up consistently with the fight, but she is out of mana, and here comes Shin looking for something. I don't think this is going to turn into too much. No, we're going to back off. We do have the Pantheon here, but still, Zuli is going to be hard to pin down. Akali is just synonymous to try to take down, and you know, it's right up there with Ahri, and I think you could probably argue that they're even more slippery than the other one. Pantheon going to rotate top, but this Malphite's not overextended even a little, so a lot of the early advantages that SSP, that Fiendish, was able to find beforehand, we're not able to pick up whatsoever. We'll show them all, I think, has been shadowing just a little bit better, but hasn't had a massive impact. We haven't really had a need. We only have one kill. It is on Akali, and I think maybe that's the goal. Maybe we're going to try to play around Akali. Maybe we're going to try to wait till the lane phase is over and wait for Espada to get in range, or maybe we're just going to try to passively pick up a couple of these objectives, which is the slower thing. The concerning thing is really just watching these plates and watching how that goes down. I am a bit concerned that SSP so far has not found a solution to dealing with, you know, essentially their win con, or essentially dealing with their strategy kind of falling to pieces, which is Fiendish sort of not getting in there and destroying them. But really, we just need to wait a couple more minutes for these next couple of fights to really kick off. It seems like both sides are still just kind of feeling each other out.
Yeah, and that's kind of what you wouldn't expect necessarily from this, but actually last game was considerably slower, even because we didn't really see the first blood either until, I want to say, slightly later, until like the early phases of the game. As Investa here gonna be going in to fight Espada, trying to get a bit of damage down, gonna use the unstoppable force, barely gonna miss though, and now the Pickle looking to fight back, doesn't decide to not use the public execution, but glad to get that Malphite ulti out. But we could potentially see an actual dive here, and instead with that place ward, gonna get the Pickle out of there, and that's gonna be some turret plating dropped for the top lane as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking at that, the biggest thing is, like, Will Show Them All has just sort of, I won't say not been allowed to play the game, but we've had wards on them constantly. So stuff that would have turned into decent ganks, because, you know, if we had stayed under tower, Pickle definitely would have been dead. I think Pickle has pretty good game sense. They can feel the disturbance and the force coming, you know, which is often the jungler making their way. So that's been very, very good. Plus, Mbessa is a hard dive to make. We're looking for some sort of angle here on the banana bush. I guess we've got Drake coming up, and We'll Show Them All why run directly into them. Yes, indeed. We're starting to fight.
Gonna jump on top of them. We'll Show Them All. Gonna try to taunt out. Gonna get the Magic Storm. Gonna try to draw them back in. But now we're getting the rest of the fight. Solo Mason cough off on the backside, having to flash over the walls. Conserve Magic gonna be going in. Lands the charm. Gonna be trying to push them out. Phenomenal. Brought on the low HP. Espada is now here at the bottom of the fight as the Investa is nowhere to be found. Off on the top side, the TP gonna be important as We'll Show Them All gonna be able to secure the kill on to Fiendish. And that is a change in the jungle as We'll Show Them All is now all over the place.
Once again, SSP came in with a plan. We said, hey, we're going to hop on this person. We're going to take them out. But unfortunately, it was the Shen. We'll Show Them All is very, very tanky, hard to deal with. And, you know, and their plan just completely fell apart. We had a lot of damage, but we didn't have a lot of focus, and we didn't know what to do if our plan failed. And it really showed. And we picked up another Drake here for Mint. Mint, although, looking for another fight.
Another fight gonna go in as We'll Show Them All, trying to go in for the taunt. Phenomenal coming in with a full HP charm, gonna land onto Espada as two members get rooted up and down, but they're trying to continue the fight. The Pickle looking for a target, manages to find Espada. Phenomenal going in, not gonna be able to land the charge, and he's trying to get the stun. We do have Zui off on the backside, double kill from the Unstoppable Force, gonna land on the backside of MGC, gonna be able to take control of the fight. Phenomenal trying to get a little bit more low HP, not gonna be able to do enough. Roocher gonna be able to take out Phenomenal as Phoenix Feller caught in the middle of five different members, and Phoenix Feller at least gonna be able to take out Domination, but he's gonna possibly lose his life for it, trying to get the double kill, but it's not gonna be enough. We'll show them all going to be able to take them out. And that's going to be massive kills going over to the side of MGC. And now they are looking like the dominators of the fight and the game.
A 1-for-4 trade, bringing our score up to 1-6 now. Looking at this, about 24k to 26k, and 2 Drakes on the side of MGC. Once again, SSP goes in with a plan. It falls to pieces, and it looks like the scraps are picked up by Mint. Mint looking in top form, specifically Zuli doing a lot of work, but we'll show them all finally coming into their own. This may be the idea for SYN. Oftentimes, when you just can't make things worse, it's a good idea to play someone like Shyvana, or I guess in this case SYN, someone who has to kind of play back just a little bit. SYN has a bit more engaged depending on how you want to look at it, but the biggest difference is this mid laner. Badger really struggling, and Badger put in a lot of work in that fight. It just did not work out in the long run, and now they continue to lose more and more advantage, and the SSP still has not found a way forward, still has not found an alternative path to their plan falling to pieces.
Yeah, and it's really unfortunate because from the beginning of the game, we literally, or just in draft, we kind of called out the strategy that the side of SSP wanted to be able to do. They wanted to be able to get some of these picks off. They wanted to utilize the Pantheon to kind of constantly keep finding these different members and being able to help lock them down and get these kills. But it's not really working out for them. As Phenomenal, though, going to be caught in the middle of different members. Not the same night they're going to be used. It's just we'll show them all having to be in the right place at the right time, and they're looking for the Rel of Domination. Gets that kill. Solo Mason safely back under their tower, but another kill going over to the side of MGC as they are just showing themselves, showing what they can really do against the #1 team here in Eternal.
Oh, and something I want to mention, that was a nice little juke if you were watching Solo Mason there. That could have gotten really spicy for them. They could have gotten 2 kills. They got the Rel, which of course is good for them. But the biggest thing is, like, we've got to find some sort of way forward, because even if we survive these fights, if we survive this, like, what are we going to do in the long run? You know, we're going to go for these objectives, but like we've been pretty much ignoring them. We can get our hands on Shelly. Ooh, nice charm.
Oh, that's going to be charm, a stun. Zui going to have to use the Shroud to get away, and he's going to be able to take out Fiendish Feller. Concerned Badger trying to find that kill, but can't do it. The fancy fingers on the Akali. Zui taking another kill in the 1v2, getting them away, and that's going to be the objective secure for the side of MGC.
Absolutely. Zuli coming in top form, and a lot of this has to do with the champion. Like, I'm not knocking their skill as a player whatsoever, but it's a really great pick. I was initially pretty skeptical for it when we're looking at not meta, but Comfort often works really well. It looks like we read the book.
Execution gonna land, and now they finally get the Akali down. That's the kill they've been looking for the side of SSP, as they're finally able to take down the MGC mid laner, giving that shutdown over to Concerned Badger.
We're able to pick up a little bit of gold. We're able to pick up a couple of plates there. We did lose Shelly, but Shelly's not the worst thing. We've seen a lot of the T1 players using Shelly specifically for PvP and less so for the crashing like we used to. Not that they can't be used for Drakes or before Drakes, you know, sort of as that pressure tool before. But it seems like most people seem to really favor it for the PvP. So that's not the worst trade. And hopefully it gets Concerned Badger a little bit more in their gas tank. They seem like they've been struggling just a little bit to sort of find their method to make things work. Fiendish in the exact same category. Now both Fiendish and Concerned Badger have a little bit of gold in their pocket. It's just going to depend on how they use it. And once again, it's all going to come down to consistency. We're going to take our first tower here. That's going to be nice. That's going to be a little bit of gold in their pocket. And so maybe the angle is to shoot for some of these towers.
We do see right now a Spotter chasing down Pickle, as we'll show them all coming in to try to help out. Dashes away, so they're gonna go ahead and back off of that top lane encounter. And I think right now for the side of SSP, they want to just try to slow this game down. It's not out of their hands just yet. Only 1,000 gold down at 20 minutes is definitely not something to really feel like, you know, you can't fight against. And I think that they know that, and it's just something that they just have to keep fighting for. But Mint right now looking very clean, as they're able to continuously still deter the side of SSP from wanting to engage in certain fights. Because we saw last game where they were consistently willing to just be like, oh, we could take this, let's go ahead, let's go in. But I haven't seen, like, even on some of the vision that they do get down, I haven't seen a Grand Starfall just dropping onto a solo member with the rest of the team following up, because they don't have that, they don't feel they have that current capability. And as we're seeing here with the Malphite making the TP down to the bot side, it feels kind of scary to try to fight for this Drake, even though they see the vision on it. Phenomenal trying to get themselves a little bit more. It's looking like the side of SSP is not even willing to go ahead and risk that fight and risk even more gold going over to the side of MGC.
I think they made the right call. I don't think they want to take this fight whatsoever. I think they need to try to get what objectives they can, maybe try to pick someone off. They did get a couple of plates inside the mid tower and the T1s. That's going to be some nice little pressure, at least for them. We immediately backed off. We have this control, and I want to see more and more of this. Sure, we lost that third Drake, which sets things up for the fourth Drake. Shelly coming in, looking for a little bit of PvP. Would like to see the crash instead, but we've gone into the tower. The smite coming down, taking down about half HP, and I think that's kind of one of the reasons why we see it used more for the PvP setting rather than anything else. Getting knock up on 2 or 3 would have been very, very strong.
Unstoppable force gonna land on the 2 members of the Magic Store, goes in, lands into a big billet time, but not gonna be enough for Zooey. Gonna be able to take out Solo Mason off on the tower as they're trying to drag even more. The Pickle going on the low HP, and then we'll show them all going on a killing spree under the tower, trying to chase down Phenomenal. Is Spada looking for him as we'll show them all continues to chase. Fiendish Fella is phenomenal. Gonna be the 2 members still left as Concerned Badger, just continuing to push off to the mid lane, and that's additional kills over to the side of MGC, and they are looking for the Baron. Okay, never mind. Actually, they decided not to go for it. I'm actually surprised. They did have the potential to do it there. I mean, that could have been an easy one, but I guess not. Right now, I'm actually my main concern right now is actually I'm surprised that there's no collector on MF, and usually that's I usually feel like that's a pretty good item on her, but Essence Reaver, Bloodthirster for okay. I don't know. That's one for me that I'm kind of confused about. Grand Starfall though, gonna land down, gonna drop the stun onto a spot of Fiendish Fella, looking like he can't really get the damage, just a lot of armor on them, but Phenomenal coming up to try to help out his jungler. We do have Solo Mason here as well, and we're gonna try to get a kill onto this MF. Can we do it as he continues to walk away? Shut down, going on to Solo Mason. Nicely done to the for that top lane gank, and getting a little bit more gold. Once again, only about 1,000 gold down on the side of SSP, so they're trying to keep themselves in this game as much as possible.
When I mentioned the versatility of MF sort of playing back if they need to, that bullet time being a powerful tool that they can play with. So I'm happy that they gave it to the ADC, not just because the ADC is the ADC, but specifically because we are MF and sort of how this game is sort of going. I think it's very clear that Fiendish is going to struggle to sort of find their place in this. Not that they're a bad player, but I think the team comp is against them. So they're going to be leaning very heavily on the rest of the team, and that Fiendish is going to take more of a support role, more of a looking for the stuns, maybe for an execute, but it's going to be hard for them to pin someone specifically down. So if they're able to layer stuff, that might be able to change them. Badger really struggling here into Akali.
Be able to use the R1, might be able to get it, jumps in, the Stand United going to be able to get him, but then we got 2 more members, Solo Mason and Phenomenal. Fiendish Fella coming down, and they're trying to get the Shen taken out. TP from the Mbessa, looking for the 4th member, shut down. Is Fiendish Fella going to be able to take that kill on, and we show them all pushing Zooey right back out, and Concerned Badger able to get out with their life. But if that fight did not show up in the right moment, if they weren't able to dodge out on certain skill shots, it would have definitely been another kill going over to the Akali on MGC.
We're getting close to about 23 minutes on the clock. We're sitting about 4 to 10, 41k to almost about 39. I guess we'll say 40k. About 41k, so about a 1k lead in gold difference. That's not the biggest thing. Looking for a next fight.
Yes, here we go. The Pickle getting a little bit. The Charm going to land onto a Spada, but now the Unstoppable Force, they went in a little too deep, and they're going to be able to give it right back to them. Public Execution going to land onto the back, but Domination going to be able to take that kill. They're looking for Concerned Badger, and that's another just given away over to the side of MGC, and that 1.2 gold lead now down to 400 MGC. They're just looking to win this game.
I mentioned how Mbessa is specifically a skirmisher, and you know what do skirmishers hate? Skirmishers hate armor, they hate shields, and that's everything that Malphite has. And at this point, Malphite's sitting at level 15, got a healthy amount of gold in their pocket, good amount of farm, good amount of levels. So it's going to be very hard for Mbessa to take them down. If Mbessa's going to go for anyone, it's going to have to be the Akali, it's going to have to be the ADC, but all of those are hard picks. Sure, you can go for the Karma, but Karma's sort of happy with that. Karma can heal and shield and do a bunch of other things and buy themselves time, and even if they still end up dying, that's a lot of resources wasted on the support. So, you know, it's just very, very hard. You know, like we really just have to layer absolutely everything to take down one person. But the problem is, after that, what happens? So, you know, what is our game plan? Do we rely on Solo Mason to sort of fight this sort of retreating fight? You know, we got plenty of Qs, got plenty to play with. And we try to shoot for some of these objectives because we're getting really close to this next Drake. And one of the big things is SSP's one of their primary advantages was having these wards down, and that has been less consistent in this one. The Mana Bush is firmly in the control of Mint, and we're looking at a bad spot. If we start a fight here, I think SSP is at a disadvantage. However, we do still have that mid tower, which applies a lot of pressure.
Yep, and then right now we do see on the top side, since actually Fiendish Feller can just utilize the Grand Starfall like it's a teleport if he really wants to. So it's kind of smart. I think what's going on here is that even though, yes, they're going to lose the Drake, they're going to try to trade it. It looks like they're going to try to trade it off for the Baron here up on the top side. But they don't see is that the Akali and the Malphite are actually walking up. So the Soul is definitely going to go over to the side of MGC. But now the Pickle going to try to turn around. Public Execution going to miss as a Spada getting charmed up and landed onto multiple members as the Grand Starfall is going to come down trying to stun off in the backside. But Zooey looking for Solomation off to the backside, but not going to be able to land that damage. It's almost there. He flashes over the wall. Bullet time going to come out as Zooey going to be dropped by the Mbessa. The Cloud Drake Soul going to go over to the side of MGC while Domination's on a killing spree, getting chased down by different members as Fiendish is also going to go on a killing spree, taking out the ADC. And we'll show them all, trying to go ahead and save the team members. Not going to be able to do so. You may have gotten a Drake, but now you might be potentially losing your life as they continue to chase it down. The flash going to be used by the Shen to get back under his tower. The Karma going to be able to protect them. They get the kills on the 3 members, but at what cost is the Soul goes over to the side of MGC.
We were able to pick up the Soul. We were able to stop the Baron on the other end, but honestly, we could have had our entire cake and ate it too. The biggest problem is that we focused so much on getting that Drake that it cost us, you know, three team members. So is Soul worth losing 3 people? We did do a 3-for-1 trade, and we did stop Baron. So I guess you could argue that that would be successful, but I gotta imagine how that fight would have gone if Will Show Them All had been allowed to be there a bit sooner. Either way, they've got the macro, they got the objective, they've got a little bit of gold in their pocket, but the biggest thing is now, I think SSP has a little bit of wind in their sails after at least winning bits and pieces of that fight. That's going to give them a lot of much needed gold. At this point, Fiendish has tied himself up, sitting at 4-4, and we've got a decent displacement of gold. I would like to see a lot more on Solo Mason, but you know, there's a lot of hard targets for them to go for. You know, who's Solo Mason going to shoot for? All of those targets are either really, really beefy, or they can just avoid the damage.
Yeah, and that was actually really something I started noticing. Like I tend to try to look away from the gold leads when things like this start, like when they start to transition consistently like this. And if you're looking at it, at one point it was only 4 kills to, I think it was like 10 potentially, and we were already seeing SSP starting to draw the lead back into their favor. And so it just shows how much more like this, you know, their farming and their map control has been, because look at the tower count. 5 for the side of SSP, though they've been losing. They were consistently losing for about maybe the first 20 minutes of the game, where team fights were not going their way. They were constantly getting out. They were actually consistently getting outplayed by the other side of MGC. But now the map play is what's helping them stay within this game, and because of that, they are sitting at about a 3K gold lead, even though they are behind in the kills. This map difference is starting to really show, or the macro play around the map is starting to really show for the side of SSP and how they utilize that. Even though yes, they lost this Cloud Drake, they're not too worried about it. I would have liked to have seen them at least try to fight for some of these Drakes, but instead they're saying that we can't fight for that objective because we can't really win over in those fights, so let's just continuously fight for the map. Let's fight for their objectives. The taunt going over the wall, 3 different members, charm going wide, Q gonna land, phenomenal not having to charge out and escape. And that's actually funny. They're like, they kind of saw the fight, but they were like, okay, wait, never mind. And I like seeing that they all were like, okay, don't take this fight. We don't need to necessarily take this fight. But now trying to clear out the way with the bullet time not going to be enough, as they managed to take down that turret in the mid tower. So that's going to be the mid tier 1 in the second tower for the side of MGC drop.
Yeah, and getting control of these towers is going to be so important. It's providing a lot of passive pressure. It's keeping that macro up, and we're trying everything we possibly can to try to lock down anyone. I think maybe going for Ari, even Concerned Badger hasn't been doing as well as they normally do, but we're still playing Ari. You know, wasting a lot of resources to try to lock them down is really just not going to work out. We're entering sort of the awkward stage where I don't think Mint knows what to do. We have our 4 Drakes, we have our Cloud Soul, which of course is going to be pretty powerful if used correctly, but if SSP just continues to have this game sense and knowing when to back off, it may not really matter, and we can just continue to push these towers over and over and over, which they have done very, very well. You know, I think ending will be a little bit difficult, but, you know, I talk about this all the time. We're getting close once again to that 30-minute mark, which means that gray screen is continuing to scale, and it's going to have something to watch out for. So even if SSP just gets one little bitty kill, or they're able to occupy, you know, one person, or maybe fight a 4v5 or whatnot, while someone looks for those ending moves, you know, it could really work out in their favor. So SSP has slowly worked their way back into the game, and it really does show the big difference between the towers, because as powerful as Souls are, I know everybody likes to talk about Souls, especially right now with Autocon and everything else being gone, and, you know, the Void Grubs not being quite as powerful as they used to be, Shelly not being quite as powerful as it used to be, you know, the towers are even more important right now.
Yeah, and that's why it just shows you like playing around the map sometimes can just be all you need to really win the game. Like you were saying, you actually said this in the very beginning of this entire series. You could have 30 kills, but that doesn't matter when the gray screen is saying defeat for yourself. But you know, like that's not what you want. And it looks like we might have had Fiendish leave the game, so we might be getting a pause potentially, unless he came back. Oh yeah, no, it looks like he's
No,
fine.
he's still moving.
Okay, cool. It's because sometimes it does that and then it like delays the pause, and then it's like, oh nope, we got the pause here now. So okay, he's good. But I think that for what this is and for what this is right now, like how well that they're able to play this, like it's also telling of their mental as a team, you know? Like they were like, you know, we're giving up fights, we're giving up kills, but we know that our macro play around the map is going to be overall better. Let's just continue to play to that. And I really think I like that about SSP, that even though they saw themselves in multiple losing situations, they still managed to find themselves advantages. And that is something that was like that was the difference between MGC last game. MGC was waiting for SSP to make mistakes, where here SSP is constantly looking for their potential advantage, their potential win condition, even with the constant change in the situation. And that adaptation is what's going to be extremely important for a team to be able to win, even when coming from behind. We do see that now the mid lane is starting to get barreled down by the side of MGC. They do find SSP off on the opposite side. Espada looking for an angle for the ultimate, might be able to find it
Not
here.
looking good for men.
Yeah, wait, hold on 1 second. Solo Mason gonna be able to get the ultimate. That's gonna be Espada being able to land on top of him, but now Solo Mason being able to get away, and now multiple members trying to find him. Domination gonna be able to take a Phenomenal, as he's gonna be the first member to drop. Now, we do have off to the backside of Kali trying to get onto Solo Mason, but Zui gonna be able to drop down as Pantheon gonna be able to take that kill. The Pickle fighting off two different members off to the top side as the MF is gonna be able to take out Espada. The Pickle, though, gonna drop there to drop down to Domination as the Grand Starfall comes in. Finding Will Show Them All. Roots are gonna be dropped. Domination gonna be dropped. The Spear gonna miss on the Will Show Them All, but the only member left alive by the side of MGC. 4K gold, almost 4K gold up now. SSP taking the lead, taking the game in control for themselves, and this Elder Drake is looking like theirs.
I talked about this in draft. Even though MF, specifically Solo, was in a bad position, we did slowly get to it, and we went to the Banana Bush. Not only did Mint get their hands on the Banana Bush, which means we got control of that entire sort of neutral area, but, you know, we played backwards into it. It could have gone really, really spicy because we had a Spada going in. We had a prime target to lock down the bullet time, but the biggest thing is just like between that and the mobility between Ari, they were just absolutely hard to lock down, and this might be the end of the game because we're already taking down We'll Show Them All, and we've got plenty of opportunities to go for Baron. We've got opportunities to go for these objectives, so things are not looking good. It might slow down. We've got 42 seconds on the clock, and we might be looking for resets, so we might not be over just quite yet, but I really like this. We were able to play off of MF. We were able to play off the Banana Bush. We were able to play off of our vision, which is exactly where SSP is comfortable, and every time they've been able to sort of line up those things, it's worked really, really well. They've been able to remember their win con while things for, you know, Mint have slowed down a little bit. Things for Mint have begun to get just a little bit awkward.
Yeah, and that's what's crazy about this is, and we were saying, like, you know, the Drake stacking earlier was something that we wanted to see SSP kind of have a little bit more priority over, and not just let them kind of just take these Drakes on their own. All four went over to the side of MGC, but the continuing to fight around the objectives and getting control of the vision is how they won game one, and now game two they're trying to take that control back. Have they so far have. Now we're seeing the biggest gold lead of the entire game for game two so far, sitting at 5K, and now Espada having to run away as three members are looking dead in the face of him, and Phenomenal is looking for more, trying to put wards in this, trying to put wards and force Espada even further back. He is, and that's the crazy part. Espada's finding some really good ultimates in these fights that's landing on the multiple members, but it just seems like, one, the sustainability from Solo Mason with the Bloodthirster is allowing them to live, especially from some of this burst damage that the Akali is dropping onto them, and you do have the Pickle to considerably taking, and with all the shields able to deter a lot of the damage, or defer a lot of the damage coming out from the side of MGC. Phenomenal, crazy tanky. Fiendish Feller has the way to, to get rid of a lot more damage coming in at him as well. So you just have all these ways of the same thing that I said was a win condition for the side of MGC, where they have the ability to survive a lot more. You also see a lot of that from the side of SSP, and now they're utilizing those win conditions with their mobility and escapability, as we're trying to see them barrel now two cannon minions, Baron buffed up, taking down the first Nexus tower. And it's now on the side of MGC, who are now on the back foot, looking for some kind of entrance, looking for some kind of way as the Pickle is looking to a fight off to the side of Spada now, looking for some way to go in. He has that R button ready to press the trigger, looking for a fight. Charm gonna go wide. Espada now seeing his angle, might be able to get it, not gonna decide to press the button, but looking for more. Now he goes in, lands on the multiple members with the bullet time coming down, crashing on the multiple members. Will show them all, not gonna drop a Zooey, gonna be the first one. Will show them all getting dropped down by the Embezzler. Gonna be a double kill. Domination, pulling down the Fudge, gonna be able to pull them in. Triple kill, going over the Pickle, trying to find more, looking for the Penta, not gonna be able to get the Quadrant. Solo Mason gonna be able to go on the killing spree, taking that kill into the mouth fight, and the Rucha on the Karma, being the lone member left alive in that game 2 victory, going over to SYN Solo Pickle. We are now on match point in this grand final.
That is indeed going to take our score to 2-0 in the favor of SSP. SSP looking in top form. Things were very much so struggling as we rolled into game number 2, but they found their rhythm, they found their opportunity, and right there at the end, I was going to say something. I was going to say that I feel like SSP has stayed here just a little bit too long, but an even more critical mistake here was on the side of Mint. We just absolutely had 3 members bathe in bullet time, hang out in bullet time for what felt like a century, and a late game MF is going to absolutely chunk you with the conjunction of everyone else. We have executes and everything like that, and just like you were mentioning, Pickle was very much so the shield for their team, even more than phenomenal, even more than Rel. We were just absolutely beefy, even though we weren't getting an insane amount of kills. I gotta imagine the damage on Pickle is probably pretty high, but also probably mitigated a lot by the Malphite shield.
Yeah, and I saw someone in the chat ask for it to see if we can get the serpents, like what maybe the, you know, how useful the serpent's fang was, like can we get the stats on how much it actually did, because I was actually surprised by how much shields were being dropped by the Pantheon at times, because you would see a shield up and then it was immediately like obliterated, and I was like, wait a second, where did that shield go? And I was like, oh wait, serpent's fang's a thing. So it's not an item that I see very often, but when it does get used, it's honestly, it almost feels like it's better than Grievous Wounds in a sense. Like, it's like, oh, you got rid of those shields, and it actually made like good use. And like you were saying, Pantheon ultimately ended up eventually taking on more of that supportive role where, like, you know, old Pantheon was like, okay, falls off late game, becomes stun bot, and just tries to find a target that you can lock on to. But man, this was a game that I honestly was not expecting to, like, it really was not feeling like it was going to go this way whatsoever at all. At first, it just seemed like, oh, what we're going to get is, you know, like, we're getting Concerned Badger right now, kind of getting beaten in the mid lane by Zooey. So, you know, Solo Mason, what people were looking at first was like, I'm like, well, what is this build? Like, I've never, Bloodthirster Essence first, that doesn't seem right. And we'll not read, you know, me not thinking about it, like, hey, this might actually help with the Akali later on. And look, lo and behold, look what happened. And then you do have, again, it's just like, there was a lot of things going in the way of, you know, of the side of MGC for Mint. And domination, even especially like on this Xayah, actually was something that I was like, oh, this is gonna be like the bright spot. Malphite, look at that, a lot of damage coming out from the Malphite, even too, being a full tank, finding these consistent ultimates. It just did not work out in the way for MGC, because SSP decided that they were gonna really, you know, they were gonna tighten up a little bit and try to go into this game and then get into the rest of like the late game as, hey, this is all we're doing. We're just gonna continuously try to either find picks, or we're gonna play around the map, keep stretching you guys thin in these different fights. And look how that last fight went even. We saw them literally stretch the two that Drake fight before the Elder Drake, literally get them into 2 separate fights, and now the teams can't fight in conjunction with one another, where you want MGC wanted to be able to completely fight together to fight around the Akali being in the backline, while you had the frontline damage coming in from Xayah, and being able to drop them down, and they couldn't be able to execute those plans in these late game fights. So with that much said, I think we're going to be getting into the break right before this game 3. Is MGC going to be able to bring this back and give us a little bit more of a series? Or is SYN Solo Pickle going to be able to close this out and hoist the Titan Eternal Champion trophy? We will find out after this break. Don't go nowhere. We're going to begin the game 3 real soon.
do 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 like do 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 crazy oh 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 crazy oh 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 crazy crazy oh oh crazy oh 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 crazy do 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 crazy do 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 crazy do 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 crazy do 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 crazy crazy do do like do 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 like do 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 crazy.
And welcome back once again to Titan Eternal, the grand final of SYN Solo Pickle versus Mint Gaming Crashouts. As you guys can see, currently the series stands at 2-0 in the favor of SSP, as they have been able to show that even in front or even from behind, they are able to take these games and make them their own. And now we are seeing why they are the first place team. Are they going to be able to close out this series, or is Mint Gaming Crashouts going to be able to punch back at them and at least force this into a game 4 or potentially even to a game 5 and give us a real series to look at? How are you feeling about this, Koryak?
Well, Malco, when I'm looking at this, we're sitting at 2-0. What that means is that Mint Gaming Crashouts' back is against the wall. There is a possibility for them to find that reverse sweep, and sometimes it takes 2 games in the best of 5 to truly come online. I do think that Mint has everything that they need to get that, but the biggest problem I think they're struggling with, and we talked about this here in the background where y'all couldn't hear, is I think that Mint is struggling to stick the landing. They were very, very dominant in that game, and things were looking so great, and I think both Malco and I were really, really rooting for them. We wanted to see this go all the way to the very, very end, you know, maybe getting a 3-2 game, get all 5 games out, but we just did not stick the landing with Mint, and I think that is a little bit frustrating to deal with, because even though I liked their thought process in their picks. They went, okay, they're picking us off, so we make it hard for them to pick us off, and then after that went really well, they just didn't know where to go.
And that's what's kind of unfortunate, because we did see that they were able to kind of build themselves a bit of a lead, which was, I feel like, their first real kind of lead throughout the series so far, and it was about maybe just a little over 3K for the side of MGC. And right now it's just kind of like, okay, what are we gonna do now? Like, we had a lead and we lost. Game 1, they got a lead on us and we couldn't claw it back. So how are we going to change things up to make this game actually a possible one for us to win? And from what I've been seeing, I'm really hoping that right now MGC is coming at them with a plan, as SYN Solo Pickle right now already getting off their pretty decent picks here. And this is, oh man, this is a composition I'm scared to see. I've actually seen SYN Solo Pickle run this with the Lissandra Kog'Maw before, but we do see on the side of MGC that they're deciding to go the Yunara Zhao on their side for their first 2 picks. And yep, there you go, picking up the Lulu for Phenomenal. Really going to be playing this kind of protect the president composition for the Kog'Maw here. And so they're gonna need something to really try to shred through this, because that wild growth is gonna be something really hard to get through, and they want to actually respond with somebody who has almost just as much shielding and a lot of healing also on their side, with the Melio kind of being that bit of like a Lulu answer, at least that I've noticed recently in this league.
So Melio's not bad in the terms of, where they're easier to execute, and oftentimes if they're easier to deal with sort of overall, and just sort of pull off. But the biggest problem is Lulu is, I want to say, the quintessential support right now. You know, obviously it depends on the combo and how it works, but this is the Enchanter meta. Lulu is already really, really powerful. She's been powerful all the way back, in LTA Grand Finals leading up to this date. But I think she might be even stronger than she used to be. Kog'Maw, I have seen a lot less consistently, but it can work. And I think SSP has enough to pull it off, especially with sitting Lulu there in order to help themselves out. Melio can aid them in a lot of different ways, but I feel like there could have been better picks in the Enchanter meta, or maybe the fact that we have a Kog'Maw and we noticed we got a Kog'Maw, so maybe we try to go for something to pick off that Kog'Maw, because Kog'Maw is very, very vulnerable. You have to babysit Kog'Maw, especially early on. We could have even gone someone like Poppy, right? Look for those rotations, look for that, and I would have liked to see that a bit more for the supports, is to see them rotate just a tiny bit more, and so far the only one that has been able to do that has been the support from SSP. But next couple of picks are coming in. It looks like we're going to go with Ivern. Always happy to see them make a return, and then we're going to make a Mundo. So this is Dr. Mundo top. I'm not a big fan of picking Dr. Mundo blind. It could still potentially work. Espada is going to pick up the Gwen. I think Gwen should fare quite well into Dr. Mundo, but Pickle has been very, very confident into Espada, so I could be wrong. With the thing I always worry about Dr. Mundo is Everyone knows that Dr. Mundo needs two things in order to win a lane and win a game. Dr. Mundo needs a health bar, and Dr. Mundo needs gold. You deny him either one of those, and he really, really struggles. But this also fits into their macro plan. You know, what Dr. Mundo does? He push, and SSP has been happy to take down these towers. But looking at this team comp, what do you think the win cons are for each side? Just if you had to take a stab at it.
If I'm honestly looking, if I'm really looking at it, it's going to be a lot more of how much more map presence can MGC be able to get themselves in this game. What we've seen is the moment that SSP starts to take any type of control of the map in any sense, we are probably looking at an SSP win. Once they kind of have their flow of like consistently locking out the jungle or consistently viewing where the jungle potentially could be on the map, and they have they start to get into their gears, it's really hard for MGC to be able to come back. So what I really want to see is a lot more conjunction of, as you said, seeing Rucha, if you guys can tell me how that's pronounced, Rucha. We want to see a lot more of this Melio and this support potentially trying to help push out this bot lane and be able to roam a little bit more and make more of an influence on the map alongside the Xin Zhao, and potentially allowing MGC to have a little bit more pressure on the map and give them a little bit more agency. If they can't do that, and if they start getting pressured, especially with this Yunara early game, we could potentially be looking at a 3-game series. Yunara tends to, even though like level 1 she can kind of run and gun you down potentially, I've at least consistently seen Yunara kind of fall back. And thank you, it's Rucha, thank you guys. And it's I've seen Yunara tend to be one of those ADCs that falls behind very, very quickly the moment that things do not go her way. So I do like the fact that you pointed out that here, like, Kog'Maw is very, very squishy early game. They're gonna have to try to really put a lot of pressure into Solo Mason on this Kog'Maw. But I'm also kind of worried about how this Yunara is also going to do. If she doesn't start to get her gold, if she doesn't start to get her attack speed up, it's going to be really hard for her to also dish out damage. And she's actually fairly low range. So I know for a lot of people, like, trying to outrange like Kog'Maw when his W's up is going to be very, very difficult for them to really fight into this bot lane. So I feel overall like SSP kind of built themselves advantages. But actually Zooey here chunking down Concerned Badger in this mid lane and looking for a little bit more. Both of these guys are level 2, both pots being used up by the Lissandra, but we do see We'll Show Them All invading this Ivern in their jungle and preventing them from being able to get the camps, making that sure the Ivern doesn't hit level 2 and giving themselves that little bit of advantage. So we're seeing already a little bit of difference from MGC, where they're trying to put a lot more pressure on this early game, and it feels like they're putting the pressure on even earlier than before. And so they know, especially with Xin Zhao, like, Ivern's not gonna be able to fight level 1 against the Xin Zhao. Like, it's just not gonna, or even level 1s through 3, not gonna be able to fight the Xin Zhao exactly. So We'll Show Them All utilizing that advantage that they have for themselves to be able to try to kind of put a little bit of pressure on this Ivern and push themselves into the start pushing this lead as soon as possible.
Well, and I think we're sort of telegraphing what our plan is here, because one of the biggest things we've got for Ivern and why Ivern is good in the jungle, oftentimes I like to see Ivern with Mordekaiser because they build up a massive shield and they can just really help set Mordekaiser up for a lot of different stuff. We can do kind of the same thing with Dr. Mundo, but the shield priority is definitely going to be solo. It's definitely going to be putting a lot of pressure on this Karma, and it should make this Kog'Maw near unkillable. What is nice first fight.
Root gonna land onto Zooey, trying to at least get the flash out of them. Not gonna be able to do so, but that's a lot of health lost by the Annie right there. Nice little gank there from the side from Fiendish, trying to get something, as they can't really invade the Xin Zhao's jungle too much, and they're having a hard time being able to try to steal camps, as camps have already been stolen away from them.
Absolutely, and I was hoping that We'll Show Them All was going to try to path in order to make their way bottom, because that is when Kog'Maw is going to be the most vulnerable before he hits that level 6, and but still it's going to be really hard to deal with the other side. And when looking at the Yunara, even though Yunara doesn't have the same amount of range, Yunara plays a lot like MF, to where she wants people to walk into her, because Yunara has a lot of these sort of like tiny AoEs that she throws out, and those are extremely easy to hit when someone is running into you. So Yunara is great at specifically that. Not that Yunara can't move forward, but the biggest nerf that happened from LTA Grand Finals Yunara to this one is still the fact that a lot of her abilities to sort of get in range, a lot of her abilities to sort of like close the distance were nerfed a little bit, but her damage is kept mostly the same. First flash coming through.
Flash Stone gonna land on the Concerned Badger. That's the Ignite being dropped and just gonna walk away. Not gonna be able to do so. We'll Show Them All gonna take that first kill, first blood, once again going over to MGC. And honestly, it's really nice to see how early in this game they're already putting themselves at least 1K at just under 5 minutes.
Absolutely, and this is what I want to see from Will Show Them All. I have seen them on SYN before, and they do very, very great. SYN, despite the fact having a literal spear, allows them to sort of play forward, allows them to sort of find these advantages, and I do think that SYN fits Will Show Them All's playstyle very, very well. And the fact that we've gone sort of a support jungler when it comes to Fiendish does mean that is one advantage we can leverage. The biggest thing I'm worried about is the mid to late game, unless we're able to lock down solo somehow. That's going to be the biggest thing to watch out for, but we do have a lot of tools to do that. And I think one of the big ones we've got is Espada. If Espada can get in range, they can absolutely wreck a whole bunch of teams, plus the fact that we still have Zin's very, very powerful ultimate. Crescent Guard puts in a lot of work and can separate a team in a good way, so if we're able to go in and separate solo from the rest of the team and maybe hop on that, that could be someone taken down. But the big problem is, you know, we've got a lot of tools to deal with. We've got a lot of shields, and then we cannot forget about Concerned Badger. Even though Concerned Badger, I think, has been doing less successfully in these 1v1 team fights, has been doing better in the 5v5 team fights as the time goes on. So, you know, there's a lot of different moving parts here to watch out for, but having that first kill and Will Show Them All is really important.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be good for him, as we did get a little bit of a scuffle up here. Both ultimates being used by the top laners up here in the top lane, but we do see that also both of the junglers are kind of hovering around this area. We'll see who's going to potentially make the first gank, even though we saw that MGC has been really good about just being in different areas, and already the Ivern, oh, that's actually the Ivern right there. Okay, so I was like, oh, wait a second, is another gank fight to be made by him, but no, it's going to be the Ivern coming down to try to start clearing some wards. I think this right now, again, they've already started to build themselves up a lead, even though in other areas, like right now, you do see there's a slight farm differential between the top laners, or not the top laners, but between the bot laners, and we're seeing a lot more being given over to this Gwen, which I really do like this pick into the Mundo. Gwen has always been pretty good into those tankier top laners, and she does have a lot of dueling potential, especially once she hits 6. So I think for what this is, we're going to see a little bit more agency being given to Espada, especially since he's on a top lane carry. But Espada right now being chunked down by this Mundo, going to be forced to back.
The biggest problem, though, I'm worried about with Dr. Mundo is we're a level behind, and we're a bit of CS behind. And we're continuing our bullying here for Ivern. We only got one level 6, and he does have it ready to go. Flash incoming, but not a whole bunch. Maybe he's still looking for a fight.
Yeah, they're gonna drop the Tibbers there, but not gonna land anything after utilizing the flash. Not using like the flash, but we do have Concerned Badger here off the backside, gonna use the ultimate onto them. But now the two members of the bot side from the side of MGC gonna be the first ones to rotate up, as Solo Mason trying to drop some damage down. Fiendish gonna be able to walk away, but that's just gonna be the end of the fight. Nothing given over, but his jungle is just getting taken over right now by Will Show Them All.
Yeah, I mean, but we managed to keep ourselves alive. Sure, we're down, you know, a little mini objective that could have gone better, but the most important part is we're still alive. We haven't been taken out whatsoever. Now, the next thing I want to be looking forward to is we do have this Drake out and ready to go. It looks like Will Show Them All was able to grab one of the neutral objectives, grab that Scuttle Crab out and ready to go. But going back to what I was saying before is Dr. Mundo needs HP, and Dr. Mundo needs gold. And right now we're down on CS, so that's going to be something to watch out for. Maybe continuing to put the pressure on Fiendish Feller, since top seems to be doing much better than they normally do, is the appropriate call. Maybe looking for those angles for Kog'Maw, but the big problem is that Solo hasn't really overstepped too much, but I would be looking for as soon as they do that, to try to get a path down for Will Show Them All to lock them down. Because if we're able to lock down Solo Mason, I think that'll do a lot for their team. I think that'll help them in a insane amount of ways, and then after that, all they really have to worry about is, I think, Concerned Badger, who's not doing as well as they normally do. So, you know, I think the tempo is immense, but they need to once again find that win con, and they need to stick with it.
And again, they need to be continuously careful in this game, because they do know that even though they can get a lead, SSP has some weird way of finding a way back into the game, even when a decent amount of goal behind. So right now, I do like the way MGC is playing. They need to continue. They need to keep this up and keep their foot on the gas, especially with the Xin Zhao being able to consistently out jungle right now. 23 farm up on the. I know the jungle camp count is a little bit different, but still, it shows 23 units up on the or 23 creep score up. Now, actually, even more than that. Now we're getting up. Oh, okay, now it's back down to 23. It was still to 27 at that moment. But we're seeing that consistently. The Will Show Them All is able to take a lot of the camps, and it's actually stifling Fiendish Feller from being able to hit 6. And the longer you keep him, well, now he is 6, but now the longer that you keep him from being able to get gold and being able to get, because he's building into that redemption first to be able to have a lot of that team fight presence, and stopping him from being able to get Daisy, which is a very powerful tool for this Ivern, it does allow you to kind of keep more control of that map, and we're seeing how they're utilizing that, keeping Fiendish down as much as possible. He doesn't have as much agency, as much power as he did when he was on the Pantheon, when he was on the Nocturne. This time they're like, okay, he's a much more passive jungler. We can do something about this, and I like that MGC is trying to take advantage of that passivity that they do see from Fiendish here.
The biggest thing I'm worried about, though, is I don't think we have enough advantages. We did get Kog'Maw hitting level 6 in the bot lane, and as soon as we get these first couple of backs, we get an item or two on Kog'Maw, this game is going to start to get really, really scary. With it in conjunction with Lulu, these fights are going to be very, very difficult, and Zen is going to have a harder and harder time to go in on Solo Mason, because if you're Lulu, you're going to be looking for that great polymorph on Zen as soon as they go in. I think maybe getting our hands on one of these Drakes isn't the worst thing. A red Drake would be nice in order for just a little bit of an extra boost. Would have been nice to see them start that a little bit earlier, because I think having 2 Drakes when Kog'Maw gets that first item or 2 can spell the difference, but you know, only time will tell. It looks like we're going to take it for free, and I don't blame Ivern for Fiendish for going to land. Ooh, fighting top.
Oh, Pickle taken down, but the HP keeping the regen, but Spada looking for that kill, gonna try to get the snips on him, not gonna be able to do so. They're trying to dodge, duck, weave, dodge, not gonna be able to do it. Pickle, though, with a little bit of extra HP, able to walk away from a Spada, and that absolutely crazy scuffle up in the top side. Pickle now actually doing okay on the Mundo. I don't think being 11 farm down on the Mundo is a really bad thing, and he's baiting out Fiendish here to come down. Not gonna be able to drop the shield onto him, pulls him back in, and that's gonna be it. The root into auto attack extender gonna be able to bring him in and get the kill over to a Spada. Fiendish gonna be able to take that, but dang, Pickle, you didn't want to have to give that up.
And, you know, another thing to watch, too, is we lost an entire wave there in that one. Sure, we're only a 10 CS difference. Another fight.
Oh, look at that. Tipper's gonna drop a Zooey now having to use their ultimate. Will Show Them All looking for Concern Badger there, forcing the flash out of this Lissandra, and that's gonna be Zooey still open with that, with their own flash there. Nicely done. Will Show Them All being in the right place at the right time, and it's just, this is such a weird game at this current moment.
Well, we did manage to pick up a kill on Ivern. Ivern's got the redemption out and ready to go. Ivern doesn't sit the best with kills, in my opinion. Would have been nice. Would have been very, very nice for Dr. Mundo to get it, but at least Dr. Mundo got himself some assist gold, so that should hopefully help them in the top lane going forward. We're looking for another gank, a little bit of revenge gate, trying to lock down Pickle, but look at that HP bar. That's going to be hard to pin them down.
Yep, they're going to try to take him down, but I think Espada can potentially get a lot of the damage, bringing them down at about 2/3 HP. Pickle, though, going to be able to absorb the gank. Nicely done by Pickle here, but Will Show Them All still here and looking to go ahead and get the chase. Espada chasing back down, gives him the OK Evo. Knocked up, trying to draw them in. Espada now using the ultimate, going to try to get a little bit more. The Pickle, though, dropping their all redemption, going to be able to get the heal. Not going to be enough. Espada dodging out on the cleaver, going to be able to walk away. Top lane quest now done, and the Pickle still feeling the need to emote in front of everybody as they're saying, I'm Mundo and I go where I please.
Dr. Mundo having maximum dosage in his pocket the entire time, just wasting so many resources. That's exactly what you want to do on Dr. Mundo. We're going to turn this into a couple of Void Grubbies, and once again, this objective is very much so neutered, but I think keeping it out of the hands of Dr. Mundo is going to be very, very important. Dr. Mundo would love to take out a couple of those. We're going to back off kind of prematurely, but at least we're going to be able to get our hands on one of them so far. Looking for a gank, but looks like we've already got a ward here in the Tri-Bush. Our score right now, 1-2, 13 minutes on the clock, 1 Drake in the favor of MGC. Not a massive gold difference, but you know, we have seen that both these teams don't really need a huge gold difference overall, but I want to see Mint try to capitalize and get some more advantages when and where they can, because right now the game's going to look really sketchy.
Oh, and Zooey getting the flash forced out, trying not to get caught up by the root there from the Ivern. And with using the stun already, dropping Tibbers might not have been enough to be potentially able to save them from the lockup of Concerned Badger and Ivern put together. So nicely done there to use their flash to get out. I want to see, and like you were saying, it seems like right now we're just in a really weird spot for the game. It's kind of like, it feels like in this weird standstill, and it's coming down to the point where it feels like it's gonna really be off the back of this Kog'Maw eventually. Like right now, the top lane is kind of going in a weird spot where, like, yes, things seem a little bit even. Mundo kind of does have some items there, but I don't know how it's gonna easily fare against this Gwen consistently as Gwen starts to scale a little bit more into the late game. She does eventually do a lot of damage, and I honestly think I'm not sure if this is an item for her, but Dusk and Dawn might be something that she's probably going to be going into next, which could enhance a lot more of her damage. But it's just, again, we got to just see how well they make into the late game, because even though they have the Yunara here for this late game damage, they also got to go up against now first item Gwynsu's Kog'Maw. There's a lot that's actually like going. There's too many variables right now in this game, and even though, yes, it's about almost a 2k gold lead in the favor of MGC, again, we saw them get about 3k gold up, and this is funny, the redemption constantly being used up in the top side to keep Pickle just topped off so they can keep fighting against this Gwen. Is honestly a very interesting strategy. The longer that Mundo doesn't have to leave lane, get their quest up, and then they start to roam around the map, that's when it becomes a problem. And that's what's going to end up being a problem for the side of MGC. Is eventually we're going to get to that point where it's like, all right, they're starting to split us up on the map, they're starting to do their map play, how do we get around this? And I want to see a lot more of them getting ready for that in potential, as we do see the Tibbers drop down. Audacious charge going in, phenomenal though, gonna be able to put the shield, no wild growth needed as they're able to live. And that's gonna be a resource. At least they had the flash to get out, but the Lulu able to walk away, and they're looking for the second Drake of the game. I really like seeing all these objective stacking going on from the side of MGC. Once again, they are really trying to take control of the game early, but here we go. Espada going in, looking for Pickle, trying to get that kill. The Snips coming out, taking the turret shot, but not gonna be able to get it. The ult now dropped by Pickle as well, and he really likes to save that for extremely low HP. Not gonna be able to TP down to any fights or anything, trying to help them take that Drake. And I don't like seeing SSP just kind of give these up, but it feels like they know that they're kind of in a weird spot where they have to, and we'll show them all now trying to fight off Fiendish, but you might want to be a little bit careful. The Ivern's deceptively tanky with how consistently he can get those shields up.
Well, so I do agree that it would be nice to see SSP to get their hands on these objectives, but they kind of gave up the early objectives in the team select, right? We've got Ivern. Ivern is not the best at sort of maintaining these objectives. Sure, we've got Daisy, who acts as a sixth member and can put in a lot of work, but unless we have a lot of prio and we have a lot of great rotation from the team, these objectives should fall to Mint just like they are now, because, you know, there are other cards that they want to play into. They want to play into, of course, Concerned Badger. We want to play into this Lissandra, who's not doing the best, not doing terrible. Looking for Vite, though. Ignite.
Yeah, and the Ignite almost
close
enough to drop him down to... It was actually going to drop him down there to 0, literally. It just seems like Zui actually doing pretty well. The Malignants definitely showing their work here, especially with how consistently the consistently they have the Tibbers up, so they're able to just keep dropping it in any moment. So if Concern doesn't have their ultimate up, more than likely they're probably going to end up losing that fight in this game, in this current moment. So hold on, we'll show them all. Was just showing off in the vision, but I don't know if Concern knows that they're there. But if they do, Ivern is actually here to try to kind of deter that. So we'll show them all, showing that they can, and it's still showing that they're ahead here. Pickle, please stop the e-voting before something bad ends up happening. That's usually like the tall tale sign. You don't want to keep going, man. Honestly, it's very interesting. I really like this top lane matchup right now. It's showing a completely different story from what we've seen. And I actually like seeing Espada, it feels like, has gotten better in that top side as the games have gone on. Like the first game was kind of like, okay, it was kind of more on the side of Pickle. Then the second game, it was like, okay, Pickle, yeah, you're on the investor, you're doing pretty well, but it still feels like you're starting to kind of deter, you know, it feels like Espada's starting to deter a lot of you. But hold on, this Pickle, the Espada fight, once again, these guys have such a grudge match against one another. Both of them popping the ultimates off cooldown, just trying to fight each other, and it's so crazy. These guys duel every single time the ultimates are up. These two are just going in, and it's so hard though, because now with the Warmogs, it's gonna be really hard to beat this. Oh, use the ult on themselves. Zuli trying to get away, was snared up, a lot of damage, and I can see the solo kill going over. Protobell in and shut down, going going over to Concerned Badger, now trying to get away. Daisy now summoned, gonna drop the redemption, doesn't know that there's multiple members here. Now we'll show them all, gonna utilize the ultimate to try to keep some of the damage off of them. Daisy gonna be able to get the knockabout. They just charge right into the Ivern, gonna be getting knocked up. Yunara now here, utilizing the ultimate wild growth off of Phenomenal, gonna be trying to get the rest of the damage off. Flashes in, looking for Phenomenal domination, gonna be able to take out the enemy support. MGC gonna be able to keep the kills coming on the board, but that's gonna be only the support drop on the side of SSP.
Honestly, you take those trades, we get a bit of gold on Concerned Badger, keeping themselves alive. We popped multiple shields. We have popped plenty of abilities. Lulu doing exactly what she should, and I don't think that's a bad death for Lulu whatsoever. As a support player, I tell other support players all the time that you are essentially a pawn. You are both a powerful piece and a piece that is worth trading. If you can trade to get a carry fed, if you can trade to get an objective, you 100% do it, and you do it consistently. So Lulu's got to be feeling happy about that, especially because Concerned Badger, I think, got a little bit of a shutdown too. The biggest thing I'm worried about, though, is we kind of have a ticking time bomb when it comes to a Spada. We already have the Nashor's Tooth, and Gwen is a champion that specifically does really, really well off of itemization. We changed the game entirely, looking for a little bit of revenge, but I don't think it's going to turn into too much. We don't have the combination just quite yet. It looks like Concerned Badger knows exactly that. We didn't feel we'll show them all. We'll show them all's had a harder time sort of getting into range, but we might be overstaying our welcome here on Concerned Badger.
Yep. Oh, this is the Sphere gonna end up missing. Goes and immediately knows that he's there and is willing to trade his life for the life of Zooey, and that's gonna be Whistle them all getting an assist on there. Zooey still able to get the kill, and that's gonna be a trade mid laner from mid laner. But look at this gold lead now, only 100 in apart from one another, where for the first 15 to 17 minutes of this game, it was MGC's goal to control. Now all tied up due to these the tower being dropped up in the top side, the farm differences in multiple places. It's just showing here how SSP still can potentially maintain some control of this game. As you were saying, the Gwen eventually with the itemization is going to become great, and it's going to be really hard even for the Mundo to be able to fight her. But and even with right now Fiendish being behind will show them all in the jungle, we're seeing though right now Kog'Maw hasn't even been involved in any of these fights, and they're gonna get the root down. Kog'Maw hasn't been involved in any of these fights whatsoever, just been basically farming the bot lane this entire time, and they're managing to keep themselves in a spot where this game is still very much reachable for them. They're still, but I don't like that. The only thing I don't like about SSP right now is still this willingness to just give up the Drakes, especially when it's something like this. It's a Cloud Drake, and they're like, you know what, this one's not nearly as important. TP coming from Gwen, they want to make sure that they can secure this Drake right here, but it looks like they still might be potentially looking for the fight. Daisy gonna be dropped here, looking for one target, gonna find, we'll show them all, missing the spear, but now multiple members charging in on the Concerned Badger, trying to proto belt over the wall, not gonna be able to do so. Zoo is gonna be locking them up and be able to get that kill. Not gonna see the claw come out to be able to save their life, and that's another kill going over to the side of MGC as they find the mid laner caught out once again.
That's really, really devastating. It looks like Concerned Badger, while also being very, very powerful, does step a toe or two out of line, and they do capitalize on it. Although I would have think that would have favored SSP here as Annie gets taken down in mid lane. There's just nothing you can do against Dr. Mundo right there. You're not going to be able to stun him as Annie. That's just a poor matchup for them. Always we're looking for another one. If we could just close the range, looks like it's not going to happen. Melio having to blow their ultimate to keep themselves alive. But Concerned Badger going down once again. We got another objective here on Mint, so things are looking good once again. They just need to find that end plan. They just need to find a way to end the game, whether it's macro, whether it's something. They got to close the distance. They got to go in, and they need to stick the landing overall. We've got a lot of the tools to do specifically that. I thought I was going to go down there. We got a lot of tools to do specifically that, but we just need to execute them at the right time. And Concerned Badger getting kills does kind of look a little grim for you.
Yeah, and then now we missed it in the bot lane, but we did see that Kog'Maw ended up taking a kill on Arucha, taking out the Melio down there, and that is not what you want to see when there is no jungle involved. There is just Kog'Maw Lulu versus the Yunara and Melio, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, 2v2, we got the kill. And now we got the tower, and we're going to start seeing this gold lead shift as SSP is now getting the first gold lead up for themselves of the game, only about 800 up. But as I was saying before, we hadn't seen Kog'Maw in these fights just yet. Yunara already had roamed up to the mid lane, a part of that 1-4v4 fight that ended up happening. And yes, she did get the kill onto Lulu, but as you mentioned, the support is a pawn. It can literally get to the other side of the board and become the queen and become a very important piece, or it could be traded off in order to get yourself into a more advantageous position. And we saw things start to become more advantageous for the side of SSP after we saw the first tower drop up in the top side. Even though we saw Gwen being able to consistently combat against the Mundo, though they match. Oh, wait a second. Timber's gonna drop on a solo Mason, immediately forced to flash out. Don't think there was some kills there. Redemption gonna drop, and they're trying to get in. And we're gonna see phenomenal drop to Will Show Them All. Ivor now trying to chase down. Timber's trying to get solo Mason. Will Show Them All gonna try to dive into the tower. Manages to land the charge onto solo Mason. Gonna be able to get him. Will Show Them All taking out the Kog'Maw, going on a killing spree. Gonna get the tower though, as Kog'Maw uses the passive to be able to get the explosion, taking him out, getting a huge shutdown, about 800 gold worth over to that Kog'Maw. This game is still very much in the hands of SSP. They continue to chase down Daisy, looking for their next target, now being pulled back. Domination gonna be able to take down the, oh no, not gonna be able to take them down, but we do have in this bot side Espada, Pickle fighting each other once again. The ult not gonna be popped by either one of them like we normally were seeing, but we're gonna start seeing an absolute fight up in this bot lane as they continue to chase each other down. Oh, wait, no,
I do like that. That was a good back and forward as Espada starts a fight.
Yeah, Espada starts to fight, but he doesn't realize that 4 members from the side of SSP is here to go ahead and take it down. Polymorph going to stop a lot of the damage coming out. Pickle now going to be able to slay his enemy top laner, as we do see from the help of his team. And now they're continuing to start to get a lot. They're starting to now get into their macro play mode.
Sitting at 7-7 on each side. We're almost about 25 minutes on the clock, about 44k to 43k, so not an insane amount has happened. There's been a lot of fighting, a lot of back and forward, and both teams are really poised to do either well. The biggest problem is a little bit of missteps on each side. Every now and then, Concerned Badger oversteps. Right there, we just got to see Espada overstep, and I think Espada overstep is probably a little bit more critical because I think Kog'Maw was able to get a kill, and I think Concerned Badger has been able to get a couple of kills. Espada, if they can just get a few in their pocket, they can really, really take off, but I don't think we can deny the Yunara. She just hasn't been in position to play around it. The thing with Yunara is, like, you kind of want to fight these feigning retreats, sort of like how you have with MF. So maybe it wants to pretend like they're going to go in, maybe like go over for the banana bush or a fight like that, and then allow the damage to roll into Yunara's abilities. There's a lot of different ways you can play off of that, but then again, you've got the range here. We might get to see something just like that, but the grouping's not super great here on MGC, and we don't have an objective up just yet. And we have, most importantly, we've got Daisy here for a scout.
Yep, and Daisy just going in, going to be able to tag. We'll show them all. Not going to be able to get the 3 hits needed. We do see the TP coming down from the Gwen, or is that the Annie? No, that's the Gwen. We do see the TP coming down from the Gwen. Going to be here to try to posture for this Cloud Drake. They want this soul, but I don't know how important it's going to be. Daisy now being that important 6th member for the side of SSP. Going to be dropped down now. Drake taking down the 5,500 HP as they're trying to find the fight. The Pickle now finding Zui off to the flank, and they're gonna be able to chase them down. Pops the Ghost, looking for more domination. Not gonna be able to find these cleavers, but Espada looking to get a lot of the damage. Red team gonna be able to get the Drake, and now they claim the soul, but is it gonna be able to claim the fight? Concerned Badger gonna be taken down to very low HP off to the top side, using the ult on themselves. The Pickle gonna go off in the killing spree, taking out Zui. Espada now looking for Phenomenal, not gonna be able to take it. It's solo Mason gets that kill for themselves, making it the 3rd of the game, and that's gonna be it. Yes, they lost the Drake, they lost the soul, but they're not worried about that if they're able to get the kills and keep getting themselves into this fight, into this game, utilizing their macro.
One of the biggest things I want to see Mint do is I want to see them retreat into the Yunara. That's such a powerful tool to use, and they keep running away from her for a lot of different reasons. Funnel the fight through her. You can do a lot with that, especially if a spot is able to turn that. We're going to look for another objective to go for. Pickle already taken a good amount of damage, but they don't care. We've got Warmogs. We've got plenty of HP regen. Kog'Maw is trying to solo this. No, I guess we do have a friend over here trying to help out. We're going to spot it. Looks like Baron's at about half HP. We'll show them all. Has already blown at least one smite. He's got another one ready to go, but can he get in range for this Baron? Playing a little bit of do-si-do on this other side. Looking for a fight.
Daisy going over the wall, gonna root them up. Blue team gonna be able to take out the Baron. Asher SSP now has the objective, but already gonna be able to continue the fight. Solo Mason gonna be able to be artillery fire off to the side. Gun and Proto Belt in, only gonna be able to find him. Solo Mason taken out by Zooey, and that's gonna be another members gonna be taken out by SSP. Double kill going over to the mid laner as they're trying to get away. This Baron buff might be taken down. Third member gonna drop his domination, taking out Concerned Badger. The Pickle now the only member left to be running away as Fiendish is trying to get away from the other side, but he's going the wrong way. Gonna potentially be pincered in. Daisy not gonna be able to save him. Redemption gonna be dropped, and that's gonna be another member. What this Baron cost you? It cost you 4 of your lives, and that's gonna be 4 kills over to the side of MGC for absolutely nothing, and now they're looking for more of these towers.
Not worth it at all for SSP. Baron is perfectly fine to go for, but if you do not have an exit strategy, if you do not get out with that Baron, it means next to nothing. And, you know, Baron is the original autocon, and we saw a good example right there. We did turn a fight. So many teams, you know, mind controlled themselves into the autocon and just decided we no longer want to win the game. And the exact same thing happens with Baron, because like I said, Baron's the original version of that, just with magic damage instead. So if you're meant, you're absolutely taking those. You not only got your hands on the soul, you picked up 4 kills, and you stopped the Baron. Sure, you know, you lost a little bit of gold there, but looking at the gold right now, we're sitting about 51k, almost to about 53k. So, you know, we're not lacking on that. And another big thing is, like, Yanar's able to pick up some of those kills. Zuli's able to pick up some of those kills. We just, once again, need to find that exit strategy.
And that was actually a really good fight by the side of MGC, especially with the Proto Belt into the flag, into just getting the Tibbers to drop on a Solo Mason, and Solo Mason didn't even have the moment to react to that. They still died with their flash up, and that's so unfortunate because now Mason is just trying to, you know, they got to make sure that they couldn't, like, at that point there was nothing else they could really do. And when you're not, when the cog is so caught far up, this is something that we saw as a weakness of SSP. Their carries has this consistent effort, like sometimes they just be in the wrong positioning, and when the moment that a fight is about to start up like that, and when you got the anti-locking Tibbers, you can't really do much. So it's gotta, they gotta really make sure that they continuously, like, they still have the ability to win this game. They've come back obviously from 3k before, but now we're later into the game where this 3k gold lead is actually being shown. So now MGC really fighting back in this game, and now with the only person being Pickle with the Baron buff, there's not as much sieging that can be done, not as much macro play that can be done by the side of SSP, and they definitely had the game slowing down on them from when they actually held the lead.
Yeah, and speaking of lead, we're, you know, a couple of points ahead. We're definitely 4 Drakes ahead. An important one to be watching out for, though, is Elder Drake. That's going to really affect these team fights. But honestly, the team fights seem to really begin to favor MGC if we do not get caught. And looking for another tower dive. This could be potentially spicy. We'll show them all already having to blow the Crescent Guard, but it's not going to turn into a kill. That is going to be 1 resource down. And we still haven't managed to take this bot tower, which I just noticed. The T1 is still up.
Yeah, and that's something for them to look into. Wait, hold on. Pickle now tower diving, looking for a domination, but I don't really think you realize how much damage this Yunara actually is doing. Trying to get them to back off the tower, getting a little bit of shielding, but now Solo Mason looking to drop, gonna pop the Amelia ulti, getting that cleanse out of them immediately, but still dishing out a lot of damage. Solo Mason is still someone to watch out for. Espada now looking for a target as they end up finding them. Solo Mason gonna be caught out, tagged up by a lot. Wild Growth gonna come out trying to save him. Espada gonna be able to take out Fiendish Fella and get the double kill as they take out Solo Mason. This is looking at the game MGC is looking for. Is Andy gonna be able to take out Phenomenal, and the rest of the kills go over? It's a big ace for the side of MGC as they're 6k gold up and they're pushing down the mid lane.
We've got about 12 seconds on the clock till we are going to get Lissandra out and ready to go, but are we going to be able to stop this fight 1v5 because everybody else is about 20 seconds behind you? This could be the end of the game. I don't see any way for them to stop this. Lissandra could go in, but I'm not sure they're going to be able to stop this assault whatsoever. We're already going to go in looking for that angle, but we get melted immediately, and this indeed is going to be the end of game number 3. Mint finally found an in-game plan, and it looks like it was going to be that team fight that brings our score 2-1, still in the favor of SSP. SSP just needs to find 1 more kill to take the whole series.
But right now, I know for a fact that Mint Gaming Crashouts, they are feeling so damn good about themselves. Being able to go ahead and get that victory, even with some of the falters that they did end up having in the midst of that game, they were able to bring it back, especially once they found that one fight at the Baron right after the members managed to take it. It wasn't about getting the objective. It was about catching these guys when they're Baron debuffed and being able to go in and try to take them down as much as possible. And they really took advantage of the fact that it was an immobile Kog'Maw that that kept stepping up, trying to use their artillery fire, to, utilizing their enhanced range from the W to try to dish out a bit of more damage onto the side of SSP. But unfortunately, that big anti-ulti that landed onto Solo Mason was the tell-all that was gonna be that was actually gonna make it for them to be able to win the game. And ultimately, yeah, this is really off the back of that mid lane playing off so well, and Yunara being that hidden player, also doing a lot of damage off on the backside as they were able to run people down. You wanted them to run it back towards Yunara so Yunara could get the fire, and instead Yunara said, let me find the fire and let me start auto attacking. There was multiple places where they were able to find that, and this is a major difference from the side of MGC. I'm very glad to see that they were able to turn this game around and give us a bit more of a series, as they managed to take a game now off of SSP and show that this Goliath can be conquered, and they're gonna be able to do it. Can they also, but are they gonna be able to reverse it completely and be able to hoist the trophy themselves? We gotta wait to see that. But right now, this game 3 was a definite showing for the fact that they have the ability to compete here.
Absolutely. And I think something people forget constantly is the fact that Yunara still hits like an absolute truck. Her damage has barely been touched whatsoever, which means she's still absolutely phenomenal. And the fact that she's paired with Melio, getting a little bit of extra movement speed, which sort of counteracts the nerfs that we did hit, which, caused us to get in range. Plus, we have a little bit more range with Melio. So it's a really, really good combination. And then the split there by Espada to sort of cut off the rest of the team, that itemization, that damage came in real clutch. And just everything really, really worked out for them. But they've got plenty of hill to climb. Like I said, we're sitting about 2-1, I believe, on the board, which means that if Mid's going to win this, they need to win the next 2 games, and things are only going to get more difficult as time goes on.
And I really want to just give props real quick before we go into break. Zooey, Espada, you two really have like stepped up considerably. Like that game 3 was really something that I felt like Zooey being able to really like kind of outplay Concerned Badger in different moments, and like even taking like some of the 1v1 return kills with the the anti-tibbers at the end of different fights and stuff like that. It was very interesting to watch how much of a difference the mid lane made. And then in the top side, where I said at the beginning of the game, it seemed like Espada was just like figuring out Pickle as each game went on, and that Gwen game was definitely one to be proud of for themselves, as they were able to not only get ahead in the lane but be a consistent team fighter and a team fight effort that was needed for the side of MGC to be able to win this out. And then once Domination was able to get their wheels turning, it became a whole different type of game for the side of MGC. I really like how the whole team came together as well overall to be able to get this victory. And even in some different instances where they made mistakes, they were able to take the game into their stride and then continue it to a lead. Like they actually got the lead in the beginning, they gave up a little bit in the mid game, but then they were able to grip it back and then bring it back to them for the victory. So with that much said, guys, we are going to be getting into game 4 after this break. Is MGC going to be able to bring us over to Silver Scrapes, or is SSP going to close out this series and hoist up another trophy for the SYN teams in another league in Titan with Titan Eternal? Let's see if they're going to be able to do it. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back.
Like, ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? Ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? Ay, coming down like precipitation. I ain't never met a limitation. Hater plotting my elimination. Gotta go to Google for the information. I'm a superstar, so I gotta shine. Top dollar be the bottom line. Bottom feeding niggas out of line. Turn your heart rate to a dotted line. Yeah, my zodiac probably dollar sign. Got the energy to win it, my nigga, I'm feeling great. Got a date with destiny, focusing on my fate. I don't give a fuck what you rapping, you been a fake. I'm everything that they ain't, it can't be, it won't be. Wanna see me fall, I can't go, I won't leave. Coming from the block with plain clothes and police. Straight up to the top with bankrolls and rollies. Ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? Ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right?
And welcome back once again to Titans Eternal. As you guys can see, we are not done with this series just yet, since Solo Pickle was able to have a game taken off of them by MGC by honestly what seemed like a very surprise turnaround for the side of MGC. Definitely able to play the game a lot more in their control, and thanks to that, they were able to go ahead and secure that game 3 win. That was very, very crucial, because staring down match point with the back against the wall is such a hard thing to do in a series like this, especially with the way SYN Solo Pickle had played the first 2 games. But now Mint Gaming Crashouts are looking like they're poised to potentially go ahead and turn this series around, as long as they can keep that strong showing that they got in game 3. What are you thinking about, Koryak?
I'm thinking that we're rolling into game number 4 with 30 champions down. We've got a couple of bans. It looks like most of the bans are kicked out for various reasons here in the background. We also got our first side swap. It looks like SSP has decided to go red side to go a little bit of counter pick, and I don't blame them. Sometimes when you're a little off tempo, red side is a good way to get back to where you need to be. Go into those first couple of counter picks there for them. But that does open the door here to MGC to grab maybe stuff that they were waiting on. You know, like maybe is the Katarina going to make its way through? I've heard that in chat. I've heard the rumblings of that we need to watch out for, but I think that's SSP. But this would be a good opportunity to take that tool away from SSP and to use it if you can play it. But these player pools are going to get harder and harder to deal with. The fact that we're banning Trundle, though, does make me think that maybe we've got a Sejuani angle here. Oh, there it is immediately. So Sejuani there for the angle, Trundle out of the way, one of their biggest threats to deal with. And that doesn't surprise me too much. We'll show them all. Does like to pull out the Sejuani, especially when they're kind of worried about things. And I think Sejuani is the best tempo resetter. First couple of picks on the other side, looks like it's going to be Zeri, and we're flashing for the last one. Got any predictions on the support or maybe the jungle coming up here?
I kind of don't want them to. Oh, okay. So we end up getting the Udyr, which is potentially a top flame flex. I've seen Udyr top a couple times, and that's actually been very interesting for duels up in that top side. But it is something. I'm glad that they didn't just immediately slam the bot lane. Like they're like, oh, let's just go ahead and get the support. I feel like it actually, for Zeri to work in the bot lane, you need to have a very good complementary support, but it's easy to kind of counter pick it if you just immediately slam the bot lane. As we do see, we'll show them all. It ends up, or MGC, they end up picking out the Jinx Braum to finalize their bot lane. And I kind of like this, especially when you consider, even though Vandal Pipes is not as powerful as it was on release, it is still one of those items that can help buff up Jinx and make her an absolutely insane carry for the side of MGC in that bot side. But they do end up finalizing their lane, as SSP is going to kind of give us that global heal presence that we do see with the Soraka. And that was actually something in the break that you were talking about that you would actually not mind seeing, is another one of these enchanter supports that can kind of like have a lot more presence for this for the bot lane, and that is Soraka there as well. Especially since we're in this enchanter meta still, is one of those that we want to see. In SSP, not surprising, they're gonna ban the Katarina. They don't want Zui to have that potential potential. That is potentially the message of SSP saying, hey, we are trying to finish off this game, and we're not going to give Zui any potential chance of coming back in and giving them another good performance like they did in that game 3. And so banning that Katarina and not letting it make through the wings is probably the way of SSP saying, we are going to finalize this series. We want to make sure that we can give ourselves the victory, and they do end up picking the victor here, which is something I actually do like a lot. It does a lot of damage. It does have a lot of ways to help control the different parts of the map with the gravity field. But MGC now responding with the Silas, and there's actually some decent ultimates on the side of SSP that you can take. It's specifically the ultimate from the Victor and the ultimate from the Soraka, which is actually pretty nice. And to finalize the composition, we do get the Espada on the Gnar up in the top side, and this is actually a really fun build. And oh, this is not one that I'm a very big fan of. We do see the Zehen being picked up. I do believe that's probably going to end up being Zehen jungle. I wouldn't like to see Zehen into a Gnar. I'm not sure if anyone wants to educate me upon the matchup. By all means, please do. But I'm not a really big fan of, in general, range into melee up in that top side. That just seems like hell to deal with. And then also Zehen hasn't exactly had the biggest performances, at least to me they haven't had, but hopefully with a lot of the healing coming from the backside, oh yeah, it's gonna end up being Zehen top. Okay, I'm not a really big fan of this matchup up at this top side, so we're gonna see if Espada is gonna continuously have that, you know, that growth that scaling growth that they had over the series so far, and let's see if it's gonna be more Espada favored even now with the Gnar going into the Zehen. And I'm kind of scared for SSP. I'm kind of liking the MGC composition just a little bit more here.
I'm actually going to go against the grain here, and I like SSP's combination way better because two things that both Braum and Sejuani do fear is a good amount of AoE, and we've got specifically that, right? Because we've got tools to get around Braum's shield, which is such a powerful tool, right? Braum wants to block things that go directly forward, block a lot of those projectiles, and while you can block Q, there's going to be so many other tools that are so hard to deal with. I think you can block Victor's beam that comes your way. I think that does count as a projectile. I'll have someone correct me down in the comments or down in the chat itself to see that specifically, but I do like the combination here. I'm worried about the damage for MGC. I feel like MGC is putting a lot of stock on top of this Jinx, who if she can get those resets, it's going to be very strong. Silas, I'm not a big fan of him right now. I feel like he is very wishy-washy. There's a lot of cool ultimates for them to grab, and Silas is still very good at using, significantly better usually than the original alt owner at using those ultimates. So there's a good amount of tools that they can grab to their advantage, but I think this is going to be harder to pull off, especially because We'll Show Them All will not be at the helm. We'll be playing Sejuani, which does much better into playing backwards, does much better at taking on more of like this sort of support role, to where Fiendish is sort of back in what I feel is their wheelhouse, which is sort of moving forward at these directions. I think that they played the support jungle quite well, but now we're back in Udyr. Udyr can be very threatening, very powerful to deal with, and I think Udyr is such a great combination into the other team. If we can lock down this Jinx or just entirely mitigate Jinx damage, that'll show a whole bunch, because one of the biggest things that I think people get wrong about League of Legends is when we're looking at SSP's team, Soraka is not a healer. I don't care what anyone says. Soraka is not a healer. She is a mistake eraser. You make a problem, Soraka comes over and says, "Don't worry, sweetie, I've got you." And then that mistake is suddenly gone, because a lot of times those mistakes cost you resources. Those mistakes cost you health. And Soraka can pop this heal over and over and keep themselves alive. And when you step a toe out of line, you're allowed to have more of the escapability. And the answer to this is going to be going for a little bit of a gank. I think shutting down mid lane would be good, but we've already got a couple of wards out and ready to go. No free 5 gold boost. But I do appreciate the motion there for that one. I'm worried about Silas, though. When I look at this team, I'm worried about Jinx getting in range. I think Gnar will be interesting. I'm less worried about Pickle specifically. Ooh, started first little fight here.
Yeah, Zui immediately going in, but now being chunked down is Concerned Badger going to chase them down. We'll Show Them All, gonna flash in. I don't think you need to use the flash there, and is really trying to get this passive off onto Concerned Badger. Want to be able to land a stun, and is going to be able to do so. This early fight not going in the way of SSP, as Silas going to be able to guarantee themselves the first blood. Nicely done, MGC, to have that little extended level 1 fight and make it go in their way.
One of the biggest things that I'm watching right here that's really devastating is the worst person on Mid's team to get a kill is the Silas. Silas does a whole bunch of work with those early kills. I do think that there's plenty of opportunities for them to fall off when looking at this team. I think that it could be very hard to deal with unless Silas is able to get in there on Soraka. But I do think that they will struggle unless they're able to press this advantage and keep it going. That's going to be the biggest concern that I'm going to have to watch out for. But I do appreciate the angles. Soraka did not have heal. Soraka takes Q first, and that's not going to keep them alive. We did blow, healing there. So this does put Mint in a really, really great spot. But can they keep it up is the real question.
And I think that's the question that the audience and us as casters is going to be consistently asking. Will they be able to keep this up? Zooey able to get that kill on the back end of that extended fight there, and is now going to utilize that extra bit of a lead to put some pressure on Concerned Badger here. And this is something that we consistently seen from Concerned Badger is the constant step ups, the feeling like I don't know if it's just like an overconfidence thing, but the constant step ups into places, and it's like, were you not expecting, there's something like, oh, I should be careful because what if they're junglers here, and I wouldn't want to be stepping in level 1, especially as an immobile mage, to just be like, oh yeah, like if like Sejuani can stick on top of me, slowing me down. And they didn't use their flash there either, which I guess they want to save obviously for the laning phase. But still, either way, you kind of gave up that kill and kind of started giving a little bit more momentum over to the side of MGC. And what MGC really needs in the start of this game is momentum. So giving up that tempo was definitely something that we don't want to see consistently from SSP. And when they do give up tempo, we've seen how MGC can sometimes run away with what they're given. So they kind of need to be a little bit more careful. Again, just try not to step up too much and allow yourself to get caught out in situations like that.
Well, and I think one of the biggest things too is I agree with you. It was quite the misstep, especially considering the fact that we have Braum level 1. If you're going to invade, oftentimes you look to invade with Braum or Blitzcrank because they have so much power tool. A spot getting so close to going down, having to blow plenty of their pots. We do have Cole out ready to go. It looks like Fiendish is continuing their assault. They seem to really enjoy making their way into the jungle, but we did manage to support here with Zuli. Looking for some sort of damage. Unfortunately, we missed the chain, which is not going to ultimate into some sort of kill, and now we've bought ourselves a little more time. That's really frustrating to have to deal with Victor. And this is something I wanted to point out here too. Victor having that area deny right there sets SSP up to grab a lot of these neutral objectives. That's such a powerful tool. Not to mention you can pair it with Soraka, right? You can layer that really, really well, and you're stunned, you're silenced, and it's just absolutely frustrating to deal with. And then we've got all of the AoEs coming in on that, and then the constant AA is here from Solo. So I think the neutral objectives, SSP really needs to be playing for those, especially since the mid fight has lost.
Come in, Fiendish Feller though, gonna flash in to go ahead and save his top laner, and that's a return kill. SSP putting themselves on the board with a nicely timed gank, but from Fiendish Feller.
Fiendish Feller, like I said, back in their wheelhouse, back in their comfort zone, sort of dictating these fights and heading back top, making a familiar strategy. We'll show them all a little bit behind, and that's kind of one of the disadvantages when it comes to Sejuani, is you're just not going to be able to keep up with someone like Udyr. Not that Sejuani is a bad pick whatsoever, but that is one of the disadvantages of picking them, is you just can't get there in the same way that an Udyr can. You can't dictate a lot of these fights early on like maybe that you want to. But the biggest thing for MGC to lean on to is this Sylas. What I would like to see this Sylas do is I would like to see Jinx back off and sort of feign some sort of retreats, force themselves into tower, and Sylas to rotate bottom or Sylas to rotate top. Sylas is such a powerful mid to rotate, especially if we're able to hit 6, we're able to steal those ultimates, we're able to get in there. That would be a great tool, and I think that could be the mid win con, the mid to early game win con here for Mint, is getting Sylas mobile.
And they definitely, and I think that's something that they try to utilize a lot more, is I want them to see, like, have their mid lane travel more. I know that you don't want to try, especially with the way lane quest works, you don't want to be doing as much roaming. You want to try to get your quest done as quickly as possible before you actually do that. But right now, with the way that SSP plays, is a lot of macro play amongst their team, and I feel that MGC needs to match a bit of that to be able to get the advantages that they're gonna need to win this game. So as long as they're consistently matching, like if they're gonna have like Zooey roaming back and forth, and I think that was one of the games that we talked about where the win condition was gonna be utilizing the that Akali game, for example. That was gonna be, hey, we need to see Akali trying to influence these side lanes and being able to either try to help get the laners ahead, or at least putting a lot of pressure and acting kind of like like that second jungler in a sense. Like, you want them to be constantly afraid of knowing that you're roaming, but if since Solo Pickle has no fear of a roaming mid laner coming up and down to whatever side lane that you got to get to, then they're gonna feel like they have this constant advantage to keep pushing in. So we're going to see if they can try to utilize Zooey in that sense. Zooey already kind of, even though they've fallen a little bit behind in the farm, has a kill. So they're able to keep this pretty even right now. And even though, again, the the advantage, the gold advantage is kind of on the side of SSP, is not so surmountable that MGC is not going to be able to keep themselves in this game. They're going to hopefully, we're going to hopefully see that MGC is going to continuously keep the pressure on. But right now, I think that both these teams are sitting pretty comfortably.
Yeah, and we've got our first couple of items out, ready to go. We picked up a best friend sword here in the bot lane, and so I think that's going to make a big difference. There hasn't been a lot of waves when it came to the bot lane, even when we had the Kog'Maw, which is a little surprising. The biggest upsets have been definitely mid, jungle, and top, not necessarily in that order. And now we're looking for our first sort of neutral objective. I think that this is very much so in the detriment of SSP. We need to stop this, and we need to get these neutral objectives. We have such a great team for fighting these early mid-game objectives. The biggest problem, though, is Victor is next to out of mana, and we're just sort of going to let Sejuani take this. We have something there, but I would still suspect that they're taking it. Yeah, the Drake is up, and it's going to fall in their favor, and that is one advantage now, no longer in their wheelhouse. So at this point, this is going to put Fiendish Feller in sort of an awkward position, because now they need to look for something to do. They need to figure out something to do with their downtime, and they're spending it on the jungle, which I don't feel like is the right call. Maybe if you can get top again, maybe if you can get mid, but that objective's gone, and we're not going to be able to make that up anytime soon. And we get the Void Grubbies, but no one can really utilize them particularly well. We don't have a Ziggs, we don't have a Mundo, we don't have a Scion, and the Void Grubs are nowhere near as strong as they used to be.
Yeah, and like, look at this. Now he's doing the same strategy that we showed them all had in the last game, where you get one of them, then you just back off, and that's all you're going to end up getting. And here we go. We do have a lot of damage being dropped. Fiendish Fella is looking to use the bear stance to try to chase down. Ultimate going to be dropped from from Concerned Badger. Not going to be enough to get onto Zooey. Also utilizing his own his stolen ultimate to go ahead and deter them from chasing down any further. Fiendish Feller, though, might be able to get the rest of the grubs here, as the scuttle is being taken, and we'll show them all deciding not to go ahead and fight.
I think that's a good call. We don't have Prio just quite yet. We're able to grab that, maybe finish off the rest of the Void Grubbies. No reason not to get them. They are still useful. They're just not, I won't say game-breaking, but they're not as powerful as they used to be. I got plenty of mana here on Concerned Badger, and we cannot forget that Concerned Badger has been extremely consistent. So they're always a threat, even when we're down one kill. And my biggest concern really is looking at this Sylas. Sylas needs to make some sort of advantage off of this one kill. They need to start doing something. I know we're shooting for that quest, that binds us to a lane, but we can make a visit down bottom, we can make a visit top real quick and still make our objective. I think even if we're behind Victor when it comes to that quest overall, getting that kill, getting some sort of advantage, or helping top get a kill would work out very heavily in their favor.
I feel like at this point, at this point it's just kind of, this is just really unfortunate. We're seeing a weird kind of oh wait, hold on, gonna use the ultimate there, but it's just gonna end up missing. Nice sidestep from Concerned Badger to not get caught up by that Sejuani ultimate there, which would have probably led to a death as long as once all the layered CC got on there too. So oh man, I lost my train of thought there from before, but it's right now, like, we want to see a little bit more agency on this top side, especially with Pickle on this Zehen up here. It seems like, at least at the very least right now, since Solo Pickle feels like they're in a comfortable spot with this game, there is no big gold lead, kills are tied, there's no towers taken, objectives, like, I don't want to see them keep giving up Drakes, but at least they were able to get the Void Grubs for their side, so they have at least a little bit more sieging power. Aside from that, though, MGC very comfortable right now in this game. Farm leads in different places, or farm is just even in different places. Udyr now, though, finally starting to pull ahead, even though before they were sitting at just about even with Sedge. So now we're starting to see where some of these farm leads are starting to balloon for certain places, but it's not leading to anything big for either side.
Other than being down the Drake, I like where SSP is at significantly more, not just from like a CS angle, but like Sylas really shines when they've got a handful of kills on their belt. They're not like Yasuo, where you need to hit the 10 death power spike and suddenly start to pop off and whatnot. They're not like Yone, where you can just sort of wait and wait and wait, and then just sort of like suddenly get a really awesome ultimate. Sylas needs a lot of these early kills, and I think that they're going to struggle more and more if they're not able to capitalize on it. And the biggest problem is, like, what do? You go in on Victor, he just pops his stun down on his feet, and you slowly get stunned, then ulted, and then murdered. And then even if you get Concerned Badger down to a high level, you've got to worry about the global ultimate there for Soraka. And then when the fights actually kick off, if you don't take down Soraka, like, what do? Because Soraka's going to keep anyone alive. If you do not focus the Soraka, then if she's a halfway decent Soraka, she's going to keep the alive, and it's going to be absolutely a pain in the butt to deal with. And then the other side, though, too, is Soraka's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you take out Soraka, but the rest of the team is absolutely nuking you and has... Like, what do? Like, you spent the Sylas on Soraka, and then Sylas goes down, and then the rest of the team goes down, unless Jinx is able to get resets. I think MGC is in a really awkward position, and maybe the game needs to rely on Espada. If Espada can knock multiple people in a wall, that'll buy them enough time to take down the Soraka, and then turn that into other advantages from there. But it's going to come down to positioning. If the Soraka is any decent, then she's going to have really, really phenomenal placement, and she's not going to get caught in these unfortunate spots. She's going to play like everyone has a circle around them, and you're going to sit on the outside back part of the circle.
Phenomenal, having phenomenal placement. You guys heard it here first. That's what's going to need to happen in order for these fights to go in the way of SSP. And I completely agree. A lot of the disadvantages that SSP tends to create for themselves is because they overstep. And that's where they really make their mistakes. If you keep your positioning well, they shouldn't be able to have this happen. And now we're actually getting SSP trying to fight for a Drake. They go in, gonna be able to claim it, but it's gonna be enough. The Glacial Fissure gonna come down as 3 people get caught up under Zahin's ultimate. And it's not going to be enough. Sylas going to be able to take the first kill. Zooey taking out Concerned Badger. The fight going to continue. They're able to stun up Fiendish Fella, but here comes Pickle. Going to be able to find Ruka, and they do get in between Dominator. He's trying to get away, stepping away from the Drink. So low HP. Zahin ult coming down, and that's going to be Solo Mason though, catching the Jinx from over the wall. Now trying to chase him down even more. Caught in between 4 different members is going to be Pickle, and he's going to be slaying down Zooey now, going on a killing spree. Those are some of the early kills that you were just talking about that the Sylas is gonna need.
Absolutely, and that was favoring SSP. The biggest problem is that I think Pickle got a little overzealous and backed off. You're not going to win a sustained fight if Soraka is still alive. You're just not, and I think we saw just like that. There was an insane amount of back and forward damage. There was an insane amount of fighting. One thing I didn't like is Fiendish Fowler did run away from the Soraka, when if you just hung out back near the Soraka, she would have filled you up, and then you could have gone back in immediately. But I do appreciate the instincts to back off. The biggest mistake there is that was entirely SSP's advantage, except for just Pickle just was there by himself. He didn't back off with the rest of the team. I'm not sure if he communicated or if everyone thought he was going to go, but like, I don't blame Soraka for following him, because that was way too much of an overstep. He should not have been there. There's just no way around that. He just 100% should not have been there, and they should have backed off, and they should have taken their advantages. But it's still not the worst thing for them. The biggest thing I'm going to worry about now is, just like you just mentioned, I brought it up early, Sylas now has 3 kills, but the other side of that too is all of the kills are on Sylas. So if Sylas doesn't perform, we could end up in a spicy moment.
As we're getting right here, Phenomenal now trying to help out Concerned Badger. Gonna be almost get caught out by the Sejuani ultimate, but getting stunned up is Concerned Badger. Not gonna be able to keep alive, even though the Raka is there. It's not gonna be enough. Phenomenal can't keep you alive. It will show them all. Is gonna take that kill from Concerned Badger. Phenomenal now. We're gonna do have to be the next one to get dropped. So Raka gone. Zooey on a rampage as the Pickle trying to fight them off, but stunned up between 3 different members. It's not gonna be enough. Double kill over to the mid laner as Fiendish Fella now being chased down by Espada on the Gnar, getting ticked down, looking for him under the tower, trying to use the Tiger stance, able to get away. Fiendish Feller able to walk away, but that's going to be 3 different members from the side of SSP now dropped, and that's a 3K gold lead for the side of MGC.
The only thing I can think of is just entirely why. Why are we there? Why are we making that fight? Why are we split up? Why are we still in that fight? Why, when one of us went down, are we not trying to get out of there? It's just a whole bunch of whys. SSP continuing to overcommit, SSP fighting on MGC's turn, and it's just not working out for them. Sure, you've got a Soraka, but at this point, we've got an extremely fed Sylas, right? This is what I was talking about. I was worried about Sylas not getting kills. Now Sylas has kills, and most importantly, SSP has trouble. They have a problem to deal with, and that problem can steal your ultimate and nuke your team. At this point, you need to blow everything to murder Sylas, or you need to completely avoid him.
Yeah, and again, it's these constant oversteps and like you said, overcommitment to fights that is causing SSP to crumble right now. They have like we've seen that they have the consistent overall macro pressure that they can play to, but when you're starting to fall this far behind, that macro might potentially not even matter for you, even if you continue to play the map. This Zooey right now on this Silas is such a dangerous factor. Even if you manage to get the shutdown on them, it's still going to be very difficult to get around at this current moment. And Espada actually has been playing the spacing with this Gnar very, very well, where Pickle can't even really fight them at this point, can't even walk up to the wave anymore. And so we're seeing from right now, Mint, they are really playing this game extremely well. And as I was saying, I was hoping that they would continuously learn as the series goes on. And right now, they are really learning. They are consistently taking these oversteps from SSP and utilizing them to their advantage. Like, you guys want to keep overstepping over and over and over again? Well, guess what? We're going to utilize it to our advantage. This Silas able to lock up, get in the middle of people, heal up, and can't be killed. Yeah, they got the Raka, but they got the Silas heal, and that thing is substantial when it comes down to being in the middle of a fight too. So I really want to say that right now, we're looking at a damn good game for the side of MGC, and hopefully I'm not caster cursing them, but this is their game to really lose here.
Yeah, for sure. I do think that if this game goes on, we do have angles. One of the biggest things we've got to get is we got to get Badger up and going. You know, I don't think SSP suffers from this as bad as I've seen from other teams, but there's a term I like to coin, and I'm sure other people have used it before, where it's the Tony Romo syndrome. And basically what it is you have this star player, if you don't know too much about football, you have this star player that does really, really well, and then when they don't do well, the team falls to pieces. And that's kind of what's happening here with Concerned Badger. Zuli is doing, I think, really, really well. We've got a lot of kills. We're in such a great position, and the synergy for SSP is falling to pieces. You know, Friendly is not doing as well as they could. They haven't been getting these consistent, like, nice ganks. They might be trying to look for some sort of angle here, and Concerned Badger is just not doing well. And I would put Concerned Badger as sort of like their MVP player, even though Fiendish is right up there with them.
Chain's gonna hit Espada now, finding it. Gonna be able to get the start from over the wall with the flash, but the gravity field being dropped. Gonna be able to save a little bit of time for Phoenix Fellow, but Zooey going in, not gonna get the chains that time. But this is gonna be the ultimate being dropped by Zooey. I believe that's the stolen one there. As he's continuing to chase down, and the Pickle gonna be dropped by Will Show Them All. Concerned Badger might be looking like the next target, bounces off his head, and that's gonna be another kill going over to Espada. Oh man, and Phoenix can only look as the rest of the map is starting to set on fire for him, as his mid and top laner both get dropped once again.
And this goes back to what I said before. I think this game so far can be summed up in why. Why is SSP there? Why are they still there? There's plenty of opportunities for them to back off. Let someone die, right? Like, and I know that's so hard to do, especially with me being a support player. Like, one of the hardest things to do is to let people die. I have a tendency of going in there with the idiot and then dying with the idiot. And sometimes you just gotta let the idiot die. And I think that's what SSP needs to do. When you keep overstepping, let that person die. Let them be punished. Let the, let it happen. Don't add insult to injury. Don't capitalize on it anymore. Why are we there? Why are we fighting? Why are we invading when we're behind? We're losing this fights. Silas is fed. They're only getting more fed. At this point, what we need to be doing is we need to be farming. We need to be capitalizing on mistakes. When they go Drake, we need to take a tower. When they go to fight our tower, maybe we go for Drake. When 4 of them are here, go for the 1. Fight where they are the weakest. Fight where they are not. Get what you can and slowly build yourself up. We need to get Concerned Badger online, and most importantly, we need to space out the time between all of the kills that Zuli continues to get. The Silas is still absolutely frightening. Let's get some farming. Let's do something else. Let's avoid these scary players and these scary plays. I know we got Silas down close to low, but it's a Silas, right? You talked about the healing. The healing is absolutely frustrating. Anyone who has ever fought mid Silas has gone, that champion is stupid. Why does he heal that much and is that beefy?
It's actually disgusting. Like, it's already bad enough that he gets a lot of HP from his item build, as is lands the chains going in immediately on the Concerned Badger, but Phoenix Feller here to be able to defend his mid laner. Zooey definitely feeling themselves, as they do have 100% KP right now, 5-0 and 3 alongside the 2-0 and 6 Sejuani. It is the mid, jungle, and top lanes right now that are really carrying it for MGC, as right now silently in the background, Jinx is gathering up their farm, currently 2.5 items up. Currently has 2.5 items, and right now, like, these fights actually are gonna look really scary. You're 5,000 gold down at 21 minutes right now for the side of SSP, and they don't even have an area where they can enter. But Zooey now looking for Fiendish Feller, not gonna be able to chase him down, but a little bit of HP gonna be able to take him out, and it's gonna be another kill. Yes, we'll show them all now on their killing spree. Concerned Badger able to go back into the safety of their tower, but the next objective isn't even up for another 2 minutes, at least on this bot side, and it's just so unfortunate to watch them continuously lose fight after fight all over the map. But we do have it. Espada gonna get the shove into the wall, able to get the stun, and the rest of his members are here to help save him. Domination gonna land the snare traps, gonna stop the gonna be able to stop Pickle from moving, and Espada now gonna be able to take that kill for themselves. 10-2, 6k gold down right now. MGC absolutely controlling this game.
This is boiled back down to I think SSP should change their name to WHY. You know, like, why are they there? Why is Zahim fighting that? Why are you walking into that? Espada is kicking your butt. This team is kicking your butt. Learn to play back. And I think this is something that skill sets that players right around this level, the teams right around this level struggle with, is they don't know how to play behind. Most people know how to play when you're winning. Most people know how to capitalize on that. Sure, you could argue that people don't know how to snowball with gold, or maybe they don't know how to end, but a lot of people know how to play when they're ahead. It's such a more important talent, in my opinion, to play when you are behind, because in League of Legends, at some point, even if you fought someone 20 times, at some point they're going to gain some sort of advantage on you, and you've got to learn to play with that. You've got to learn to play from behind, and SSP is not doing that. They're just getting crushed, and what's really, really frustrating is, like, we've got Soraka to keep ourselves alive. Why aren't you running into the Soraka? Why aren't you crying to mom for help? Soraka is mom. Run to her. She will heal you. She will keep your team alive. Go over to that. Granted, like, you could argue maybe that puts her in position, but if you're fighting right, like, you've got a team to play with this. Play back. You know, like, it's really, really frustrating to see overall, but I don't blame them. We're getting pretty far into this game. This is what, game number 4. Each game has been roughly about 30 minutes whatsoever, so, you know, we're about an hour into the cast, or about an hour and a half plus into the cast, so a lot of these things are much, much easier to say from the casting chair than it is to actually play, and the fatigue really kicking up. Plus, you know, we're down champions, we're down a lot of things, but still, I think these are important things to point out, and I do think we need to be playing more around the Soraka, and we need to be playing back.
Yeah, and right now it's just not looking like a very good game for the side of SSP, as they can, oh, they try to find him, but you're just gonna get shoved under the tower now. Espada chunking down Fiendish Feller while they're also under the turret. That was a very interesting gank made right there, but not gonna get anything out of this Gnar, as the Drake just gets taken on the bot side, and that's one more Drake closer to the Hextech soul. A crazy soul for the side of MGC to be able to get.
Yeah, and now looking at the clock, we're sitting about 24 minutes right now, 10-2, 3 Drakes in the favor of MGC, and MGC looking in quite the dominant form. Silas still sitting at 5-0, 3-0 on the Sejuani, 2-1 on top of Espada. Espada picking a great pick, or maybe Pickle picking a bad pick into that one. And one of the biggest upsets here is the fact that Concerned Badger is 0-4. He's got a decent amount of farm, but he's having a hard time finding a purchase in this game. If this game goes to maybe like 40 minutes, he can start making some plays, but, you know, you just need to start playing off of your team. You need to start playing in your strength, and you need to make MGC play into you.
Oh man, and now chasing down Solo Mason might not be the best target, as they probably do have the W to go over. Wait, do they not have it? They're not gonna be able to get over the wall. Domination though, finding Fiendish Feller here, gonna get the laser, not gonna be able to drop. Pickle trying to go in. Please don't overstep. TP coming in from Concerned Badger, gonna start dropping some damage. The Braum now being stunned by the gravity field. Fiendish Feller now over here. Zooey gonna go in. They're gonna be able to get the Zooey ultimate to come out. I think this is the fight they're looking for. Solo Mason gonna be able to take out Rucha, and that's why the Zooey going down. Big shutdown going over to Pickle. Espada now being chased down. Gravity Field not going to be able to catch him out, but this is a fight that they needed. Bringing the goal lead down a little bit, trying to chase down the Jinx, not going to be able to get her to do so. That's 2 very important kills that were able to be found for the side of SSP, and they're hopefully trying to get themselves into the game, and they're looking for the Baron now.
This is exactly what I was talking about. You've got a Soraka play into that. We saw exactly like that. It's not just Soraka's healing. Soraka's silence is extremely powerful. The silence, the stun, we saw that Braum got in, was not able to get out, and then Zuli went in, was not able to get out, and Soraka was just in such a great position to keep people alive. Looks like we are going to stop the objective, and we're going to take down Pickle.
Pickle gets found out. We'll show them all going on a rampage. They take out the low health Zahin, and now the chase is continuing as MGC wants to be able to chase them down. Espada managed to slow them down a little bit. The zap laser going to be able to land, but it's not going to be enough. Nicely done to stop that objective, and that is just a lack of vision that makes it so much harder for the side of SSP to know that they were there, and the Baron being turned around over to the side of MGC as they are looking to take it for themselves.
Yeah, we're able to get our hands on Baron, which means that we're going to deny that important macro pushing objective from SSP. SSP has favored really heavily in the macro, and a lot of the big things that SSP has been historically good at least in these couple of fights, they have not been able to pop off right here. I do think there's an opportunity for them to win this, but they need to set up another scenario like they had before. They need to continue to bait out these fights, and they need to back up, and they need to play into Soraka. They need to play the long game in the fights. They need to play right at the edge, go in, go back out, do a little bit of poke, keep the Soraka in the back line, play around that E, play around the rest of the team, play around the damage. If they just continue to sort of go back and forward with this yo-yo, even Sylas won't be able to keep up, and we're starting to see that now. Sylas is not as scary as they were before, but there's still an opportunity for them to lock him down. This is what I was talking about with Victor. Sylas has such a hard time locking down Victor. You get in range, but Victor's like, okay, fine. I just plant my stun at my feet and I walk away. And keep in mind, this is a 5-1 Sylas and an 0-4 Victor, and he was just able to walk away.
Yeah, and this is actually kind of killing me because I'm paying. We're getting a little bit. Okay,
Prod died.
Prod died for a second. But this is what's actually kind of crazy to me because I've actually been trying to paying attention to the chat just to kind of get to see if anyone else is thinking kind of what we're thinking on the casting desk. Because like you said, it's much easier from the casting desk to be able to see what's going on as we're gonna get the ultimate being missed out there by We'll Show Them All. But is Zeri gonna be able to frame it and not know so much as Fiendish Fella gonna be dropped? We'll Show Them All going unstoppable. This time it's the Sejuani that's the 5-0 is the 5-0 terror on the map as they drop another turret, and that's going to be more of the lead being generated for the side of MGC. 7k gold up, Baron pushing in, and they're not being stopped whatsoever. Man, Mint is really wanting to, and Mint is really showing themselves right now how much they've adapted over this series, and they're really trying to bring this game to they're trying to bring the series over to game 5 as quickly as they can, because it's just this like some of the decision making right now from SSP is making no sense. I really do like how some people are pointing this out. I was thinking this, why are we chasing the Gnar for if we kind of have the Baron on lock right now? It doesn't really make much sense. If anything, we're trying to force them to a fight. Hold on, Zui being chucked down right now as the ultimate is dropped by the Victor, but not going to be able to really get anything. The flash being used, he gets out safely. It's just so weird that this macro play that they're getting beaten out on, that they've been so talented with throughout not even just the series, but a good amount of I feel like the year. That gonna be dropped by the Sejuani, gonna land on the Fiendish Fella as Zui goes golden. The objective is gonna be stolen by the side of SSP as they're able to take that Drake, and now they're trying to chase him down. Zeri gonna be able to take out the Gnar as the Zahin gonna be revived by the passive. Pushing out is going to be a shutdown that actually went over to the Zeri. They managed to take a big kill. The Super Mega Death Rocket gonna not be hit as the fancy feet from the members of SSP able to dodge that out. That's the Drake Soul gonna be deterred for at least another 5 more minutes, and that's at least 1 more kill given over to the side of SSP so they can keep themselves within this game.
So a lot of things came into play right there. For starters, the Smite game was definitely won by Fiendish Feller. That Snipe has bought them a lot of time. There's still a massive gold advantage on the end of Mint, so that is something they can play with. And, we had a lot of back and forth. Once again, we're playing into the Soraka. Looks like SSP has finally learned their meta, finally learned what they need to play into. A lot of it has to do with the Soraka, but the other side of it, though, too, is the fact that we also have Zuli. We have this... Sylas, I don't know why I forgot his name for a second. We have this Sylas who had all of these golds in the beginning, but he's starting to sort of fall off a little bit. And I think this is why Sylas has kind of fallen off of favor, is Sylas is a lot like Zed, right? Zed is powerful because they're great at capitalizing on small mistakes. Someone walks in, Zed's like, okay, you're dead now. And then you're able to capitalize that and continue to roll into it. It doesn't account for teams grouping, teams coordinating. It accounts for people making mistakes, which happens way more consistently in, say, solo queue, for example. And Sylas Sylas is very, very good at that. Sylas is typically more meta than you would see Zed overall, and I think he's more meta than Zed right now, although you can make arguments one way or another, and I could agree or disagree. But the problem right now is like Sylas is not able to find that purchase. We've seen a lot of these back and forward skirmishes where Concerned Badger is just sort of outplaying Zuli, despite the fact that we have so much gold on specifically this Sylas. And one of the sort of worrying things I'm kind of worried about too is all of the gold, or an insane amount of gold is on the Sylas, who's not doing a whole bunch with it, and is on the Sejuani. So if Sylas doesn't pop off, Sejuani's definitely not going to pop off. Sure, she's going to be beefy, but what's that going to do for your team? You know, then it falls on a Spada, and it falls on this Jinx, right? You know, for them to get in range, for them to do this damage. And if you're worried about Jinx to getting into the range overall, and SSP is playing back and playing with Mom, playing with support, then, you know, Jinx is going to have a hard time finding that damage. Espada is your best tool. So this kind of boils down to the shoulders of Espada, or, you know, you could argue Sylas, but I think it's going to be more likely Espada. Espada needs to get in there, needs to pull a whole team into the walls and mitigate a lot of that healing from Soraka, but it's easier said than done.
Yeah, and I also haven't seen a whole lot. Honestly, we also need to talk about, I think domination on this Jinx right now hasn't really been able to really be in these fights entirely and really drop a lot of damage down, where we have seen when the Zeri's allowed to free fire, it's kind of a scary thing to look into. So I think that for right now, it's a lot of, well, they still have the advantage overall. Like, there's still a 4K gold lead, almost 5K for the side of MGC. So it's not like they're completely out of it, but it still feels like that there's still a macro advantage for the side of SSP. Like, they have the ability to kind of come back utilizing the macro that they have. But with only one tower dropped for the side of SSP at the current moment, where they've only dropped the mid-tier 1, where we have, oh, wait a second, oh no, Solo Mason caught out as the ultimate is going to land, but now Fiendish Fella here to go ahead and save, drop the ultimate, trying to start dropping some damage. Zui, though, going to be looking for a target, steals the ultimate from the Udyr, and that's the only ultimate that you're going to be able to steal. Pickle going in the middle, going to be able to get the lock, going to be able to lock down the Jinx and get her taken out, shut down, going over to the Pickle, and now they're going to continue the chase, trying to lock him up. Flash going to come out of Rucha, going to have to get away. That's a very important kill from the side of SSP, from the side of MGC, be taken from the side of MGC, and now SSP are looking at this Baron, and this time it should be able to be secured by them.
I think that this is still rather risky to go for. It looks like most of Mint is up, and, you know, this is the original autocon. Like I said, this is a good way to flip the fight. The biggest advantage we have, though, this time around is the fact that we have Soraka. Soraka is such a great tool for these extended fights, and the longer the fights go, the better SSP should do in them, as long as that Soraka is alive. And Phenomenal has had phenomenal placements. We've been able to get Baron, and we continue to lose more and more advantages as Mint goes on. Sylas is getting weaker and weaker as the moment goes on. Espada just can't get in range. You know, Domination can't get in range. Now we have a lot of these macro objectives that we're shooting for, and most importantly, SSP is playing into the Soraka, playing into their team, and they have a lot of different sources of damage, one of those being Solo. They just need to continue watching their placement and positioning.
Yep, and right now we do see kind of off on the bottom side there, Pickle trying to get that front end, trying to get in front of the rest of the team of MGC, so they're not able to just jump on top of their squishies off on that backside. As you were saying, Concerned Badger and Solo, as long as their positioning is well, they can actually still win out on a lot of these fights. The Sylas hasn't been able to really do too much over the last couple minutes, and I have been paying attention to the Jinx, who hasn't really been able to do much else in these fights at all either. Zui, though, not going to get the chains, looking to look down on some members. Zeri going to pop the ultimate, going to go golden in the middle of the fight. We'll show them all, trying to find some targets, not going to be able to do so. Pickle going in the middle, going to take out Domination, and Zeri going to take out the Gnar, and Concerned Badger finally taking out Zui off on the backside. Double kill going over to the Pickle, and the game has now turned around. SSP utilizing their patience and time, able to get that kill, get those massive kills for nothing, and get that Drake. And now these two teams are both looking down the barrel of Soul Point, and the lead finally in the hands of SSP for the first time in this entire game.
So one of the biggest problems you have when you do-si-do over the neutral objectives, when you do a little bit of dancing back and forward for it, is the longer you're there, the more you lose your position. And with Soraka being this mistakes eraser, it doesn't really matter if you lose your position too much, because Soraka oftentimes is your position. Sure, we lost control of the banana bush. Sure, things have been awkward, but the biggest thing is, like I said, most of the gold is on Will Show Them All, on Sejuani, who's not going to do a lot with it, and is on the Sylas, who's also not doing a lot with it. You know, we're sitting about 35 minutes minutes in the game. And at this point, Badger and Solo are starting to hit like trucks. Badger is such a phenomenal combination with that Soraka silence. There's not a lot of places you can stand because we've got massive AoEs all over the place. So even if we get stunned, even if we get hurt, these AoEs are still going off. These AoEs are still buying us time. And Soraka was able to keep Solo alive like nothing happened. You know, we went in on the Zeri as Silas and just was not able to take them down. We got him down about half HP. Soraka goes, no, you're fine. And then the fight's over. And then, you know, we just sort of turn it from there. And the longer the fight goes, the better and better they are. And now, looking at the clock, we were about 7K in the lead for MGC. And that's not the case now. SSP has a 2K lead. About 36 minutes on the clock. 3 Drakes on each end. 12 to 10. And I'm liking SSP's odds here.
Yeah, and I think we got to really give a little bit more credit to this Zeri silently coming up 4-0-5 at this current moment in the game. Solo Mason has just, as you said, the positioning has been, oh, wait, hold on. Espada now being picked off by Pickle, but now forced to back off into the jungle as they're not able to continue pushing. Zehen actually kind of powerful right now with the Thunder Sky Death Dance? Yeah. No, yeah, that's Death Dance. Okay, I couldn't tell the item icon for a second. But with the Death Dance plus the Thunder Sky, a lot of survivability on this Zehen right now. And I'm not a big fan of this champion in general, but it seems like for Pickle is working great. But Concerned Badger now getting caught up by We'll Show Them All, but I think We'll Show Them All is all alone. At least only the Braum is there. Gonna utilize that ultimate, not able to get anybody out of there. That was a very interesting. That was very interesting to do there. But yeah, no, like you said, the Sejuani may have, you know, 5-0, maybe like 5-0 right now. But what is the Sejuani gonna do? Like, there's not gonna be a lot, they're tanky. That's about it. There's not a whole lot of damage coming out of them there. So yeah, this is kind of looking scary for the side of MGC, having that lead for so long and then just watch it deplete like that in a matter of moments between a Drake and Baron and all this other stuff. They really need to figure out what they need to do to keep themselves in this game, or else they're going to end up losing out to SSP very, very soon.
Well, and honestly, I'm going to put my stock in Badger. I'm going to put my stock in Phenomenal. I think that they have been sort of the key thing that have kept them in the game, even though Badger did not super great early on. You know, we've been able to maintain our momentum. We've been able to keep things together. We know that Victor's going to do better in the later game and get a fare really, really well. And I think the reason why Solo has as many kills as they have is because of the placement for Soraka. We saw in that previous fight where Silas, you know, went immediately for Solo, got him down about half HP. Soraka was healing over the wall. Soraka was popping all of their cooldowns to keep Solo alive. And Solo took
no, but Phenomenal.
I was just talking about phenomenal placement to go into that one. No, and we take another one.
Gonna be able to take out Fiendish Feller immediately. They finally found another fight. They try to keep themselves in there, but the Pickle going in the middle, going onto a rampage after taking down members. Double kill going to the Zeri as well. Yes, you guys managed to pick off 2, but it's still a very disadvantageous fight as Zui trying to keep himself alive, using the chains to go back in, but Concerned Badger once again going to be able to take out the enemy mid laner. And that's absolutely insane, as right now SSP is finally taking this game into their hands.
I'm absolutely happy to see that. I sure Soraka went down there and I've been glazing them up, but Soraka died so this Zeri could carry. And I'm going to stand directly on that. You know, the positioning could have been way, way better. The wards could have been better. But ultimately it worked out in the long run. And I'm not going to badmouth this Soraka whatsoever. Everybody makes mistakes. We're only human there for that one. And that's one support died for 4 kills. So you can't really argue with the results too much.
Yeah, and honestly, like, again, like you were saying, being the support, sometimes you got to be that pawn. And as long as it kind of works out for your favor, you're not looking at that death. You're looking at it as that was worth. And we like to always type that into the all chat in our ranked games, right? And I think that's something that I've guaranteed Phenomenal was thinking is like, all right, if I die here, if they try to extend themselves in the fight, it's going to ultimately lead to their deaths. And I'm glad to see that Phenomenal has that confidence in their team, especially with them sitting at 4,000 gold up currently. We see the TP coming in from the Silas. Now they're looking for this fight. This is a very important fight. This is the soul fight, the 7th Drake of the game, 40 minutes in, and We'll Show Them All on the wrong side of the map. Fiendish Feller going ahead, chasing them all, forcing the flash out of that Sejuani. Such an important summoner spell that's going to be necessary for this Drake fight potentially. Now they're trying to posture themselves, trying to get into this here. We'll Show Them All, wanting to find a way to charge in, but now being chunked down a bit. The ultimate coming out from the Victor, that's going to be a big tool gone as the ultimate goes in. Zeri now is going to be able to try to drop dropping a lot of fire. Pickle going in. Zooey, though, going to be able to find Phenomenal off to the backside of the Soul, going over to the side of MGC. This is the fight that they're looking for. They're able to go ahead with Zeri. Still free fire. Solo Mason going to be able to take out Zooey, but his spot of finding him off on the backside, going to be able to get the shutdown. As Phoenix Valley going to be able to take out the enemy jungler also. But the rest of the team for MGC going to be able to drop as 3 of the members are still alive from SSP. Yes, they claimed the Soul, but they were not able to claim the lives of their enemy and try to push them over to game 5. Now the Drake or the Baron now looking like the target for SSP.
Yeah, absolutely. And even though it was a good fight, I like the positioning for Sylas. Sylas was in sort of what I would call the Scion position, because oftentimes when you see Scion either wants to be between your team and them, or Scion wants to look for this sandwiching maneuver, which is what Sylas was doing there. And Sylas was in such a great position, but the problem is even though Soraka went down, even though Solo went down, there was too much gold diff on the other side. And even though, Mint was able to get the Soul, ultimately in the end, they lost the fight, they lost the Baron, and they lost so much. But at some point, the gold is not going to mean too much. But I do like the what this means for things overall, because even when Phenomenal makes mistakes and gets caught, or we focus Phenomenal, even when Solo goes down, we have the rest of the team to play with. Look at the scores. We're now 16-19 in a 42-minute game, and at this point, Soraka has been able to keep the game going, has been able to keep these fights going. Victor's been able to keep these fights going in order to get us to this stage in the game. The scaling might be a bit of a problem, but one of the biggest things I'm worried about is, like I said, Sylas. Sylas has picked up 1 kill. We got all the way to 5 kills super early on, and then I feel like it's been almost 30 minutes since we've gotten another kill on Sylas, or maybe we've gotten 1 kill on Sylas in that almost 20-30 minute time zone.
Yeah, that's actually kind of scary, because remember, the Sylas was 5-0 when we were early on in this
like
game.
Maybe
now,
10 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, and now it's 6-4-7. They haven't really been able to keep that same pressure and keep that same, usefulness that they've had throughout the game. And you were saying it before, like, how long before the Sylas kind of just drops off and it doesn't feel like as if they have the same impact as they did prior. And I did see something also in the chat that I did actually notice. Did we ever see Sylas take Soraka one time? I don't think I've noticed it.
I don't think so.
Hold on. Concerned Badger going golden. Zooey now going golden as well, trying to be able to keep themselves alive. Pickle going into the back line now, all alone in between 3 different members. And Zeri now starting to free fire shot down. It's not going to be enough, though. We'll show them all. Going over the wall, Super Mega Death Rocket, not going to be able to find any members, as these members on the side of SSP still so much HP. And now pushing down with the Baron and Power minions, able to get them out, and they're going to be able to get at very least this mid-tier 3. If not, they're looking for the inhibitor as well.
And this is the big problem dealing with SSP's team. If you do not take them down immediately, we heal up so much, right? We've got Zaheem, we've got Soraka, we've got a lot of these tools to sustain. And then on top of that, we've got a bit of CC to play with when we're looking at Victor. And then we got escapability here with Solo, which is going to allow Soraka more time to heal. The team has a lot of unintentional synergy. I'm not a big fan of Zaheem right now. I think he's weird. I think he can work. I still think Rumble is the king of top lane right now. But like, Zaheem's not the worst. I just think he's in a weird position for me. I haven't been real happy with his performance, but I think Pickle's been doing relatively fine. Maybe overextending a couple of times, but it really hasn't mattered because we have that passive when we have Soraka to come pick you up right there at the end. And like, man, this clock is getting longer and longer and longer. And one of the big things that I think SSP has been able to pick up is we've been able to pick up more and more of these towers, playing more into this macro game. It looks like we're going back to the basics. We're going back to what we were doing in Game 1, Game 2. SSP going for these macro objectives, how you win the game, because League of Legends is an objective-based game.
Oh man, and that CC immune from the Udyr gonna be able to completely avoid the Sejuani ultimate right there. They really are so desperately looking for some kind of pick, and the thing is, the Udyr is probably not the pick that you're looking for, because that guy right now is so damn tanky at the moment. He probably has just as much survivability as anybody else, so they're just not able to find these picks right now for the side of MGC. They're really trying though, and I'm hoping that maybe they can find something, because as we get later into this game, 45 minutes in, now it's not even about the gold difference anymore. It's all about who has the better hands, who can play these team fights out significantly better. And if it's not about the Elder flip, it's probably going to be for one of these towers here. As we're going to see, Silas going in immediately. Concerned Badger taken down to less than 1% HP, but the healing and the shielding from Phenomenal going to take out Zooey for himself as he's able to save Concerned Badger. That's an important member from the side of MGC, no longer available. They're now looking for this top tier 2 as they go ahead and punch it down. Blue tier 2 is destroyed. Beer Stand going to be able to stun on Domination as they go ahead and shove away Fiendish Feller, but now Will Show Them All not going to be able to do much as they're getting fired on. And that's going to be MGC right now looking down the barrel of a loss, as that's just another kill. They couldn't take out Concerned right there. Soraka doing the damn job that they're supposed to do.
Absolutely. I know probably chat's been, coming at me for glazing this Soraka, but like, I'm a support player, and the sports oftentimes gets forgotten, and we don't pay a lot of attention to them because a good support is oftentimes a domino tipper, and, being able to erase mistakes, which is what Soraka does. And like I said, she's not a healer. She's a mistake eraser. Being able to make erase mistakes is such a large domino to tip, and you just need to get yourselves to where your team is out and ready to go. You need to run to mom. You need to get the healing. You need to get yourself patched back up. You need to get your mental going, and I think Soraka helps with every single part of that. Plus, we've got all of these AoEs to play off of, and now we're looking for what could be the ender for the fight. And the big thing too is, Mint needs to go in there, and they need to end this fight quick because these extended fights are going to favor the Soraka unless they can catch her lacking. But then again, if you spend all your time taking down the Soraka, what are you going to do with all the damage? What are you going to do with all the gold coming at you?
Yeah, and right now I've been noticing this a lot too. Like you can't, and it's not like you can continuously build grievous wounds. It's not easily applied by the side of MGC to not able to deter a lot of the healing from Phenomenal. But now it's gonna be a lot of damage dropped onto Pickle as they're trying to take this Elder Drake. But this is the flip of a fight that could potentially be needed as they catch on the target. Fiendish Feller not gonna be the one that you're looking for, but we do have the passive ready to be procced on Pickle. He's trying to go in as Zeri looking to free fire on top of the members. Looking that Solo Mason trying to push forward. Concerned Badger going on a killing spree as they take out the Jinx, and they're continuing the chase. Fiendish Feller looking for his next target. The Elder not taken, but now instead they want the kills. And Fiendish Feller looking for more. They find those, show them on, and is continuing to chase them down. That's going to be the Phoenix stance. Going to be dropped, stunning him up. But now multiple members dropping on the Fiendish Feller. Zuli looking to stun him up. But now the rest of the members from the team of SSP is now here to go ahead and help out their jungler. And that's going to be, we'll show them all, going ahead and getting taken down by Concerned Badger. And Zuli going to be taken down by the Zeri. More members drop as Zeri goes on a double kill. That's going to be a spotter dropping. That's going to be 4 members dropped from the side of MGC, and it's looking like the potential game in the championship is going to SSP as they barrel down this mid lane.
Absolutely, Malco. What a great ending here to this. I don't think the Braum is going to be able to stop this whatsoever. Fiendish Feller can go in there and grab the win for his team, and that fight was looking better and better for Mint, but we just weren't able to stick the landing, and I'm going to pin this on Soraka. The rest of the team did really, really well, but I think the Soraka and I think the mental and the consistency for SSP is what won them the entire thing.
And look at what happened right there. 3-1 series. Actually, something that from some of the breakdowns that I was watching in regard to what this matchup was going to be, that's kind of the prediction. A lot of people were expecting 3-1 for SYN, and I wouldn't be surprised with that. Again, MGC showing some very good promise, especially in that game, in the last game, in the game 3, and even in this game 4, they showed that they had the prowess to be able to punch up to SSP. But at the end of the day, like you said, the macro play from SSP being able to go ahead and give them that absolute advantage once the game got later and later and later, where the gold doesn't matter as much and it's more about the hands. And right now, SSP showed that they have that ability to go into those games, even playing from behind, and give themselves the, keep that mental up so that they don't end up crashing out like, unfortunately, Mint Gaming Crashouts ends up doing, and they end up crashing and burning at the end of that game where they gave up so much. And it really has to do with a lot with not as much being jumped. And I'm actually going to look at the damage charts, and I'm actually kind of surprised to see 51,000 from the Jinx. It didn't feel like Jinx was even a factor in a lot of these fights that were going on for MGC, and it just felt like more of off the back of like Solo Mason with 82,000 damage dropped by the Zeri, like such a silent killer that whole entire game. And then the amount of healing that was coming out from Phenomenal on this Soraka definitely kept members alive. Like in that last top lane fight where Concerned Badger was probably on single-digit HP before going golden in that moment. All of a sudden, you see him right back up to 1/3 from the Soraka. This was an absolute game from the side of SSP, and they must have known from the jump that they were possibly going to fall behind to MGC in the early stages of the game. But then once they got their one big advantage, they were able to make it work in their favor and lead them ultimately to this win. Congratulations to SYN Solo Pickle.
Yeah, absolutely. What a great game to watch. What a great set of mental to hold on to, because if you're Badger and you're sitting at he was 0-4 at one point, Silas was like 5-0. That's quite the devastating upturn in mid, but he was just able to hold himself together, do a decent amount of damage, and keep it in there. And I think one of the biggest things is, like, I don't necessarily blame Jinx. Jinx didn't have a lot of opportunities to get in there. It's like, so what do? You chase the Soraka as Jinx and you go in there and die? Okay, so then what are your other options? You go for Zaheem. All right, he's dead, kind of. Pop the passive. Oh, he's back up again. Soraka healed him. What do? Go for Udyr. He's this massive like creature to go for, And then the other thing though too is, like, what do you try to do? You try to chase down Solo. It's not going to happen. You're not going to chase down the Zeri whatsoever. So that's going to be really hard to go for. So just Jinx didn't have a lot of targets to go for. She had super mega death rockets. She did what she could, but all the damage that she was dealt was either absorbed or it was healed by Soraka. So she was in such a bad position, and it put so much pressure on her, even though she couldn't do anything. And then it put even more pressure on Gnar. And then when Gnar couldn't perform, it put even more pressure on Silas. So it just turned into this sort of feedback loop where they just weren't able to get in range, and it turned into sort of this wishy-washy, what do we do? Which is where Soraka shines. She's going to continue to make those mistakes, absorbing those mistakes. She's going to continue doing well inside of the actual the longer the fights, and Mint just made those fights go way too long, and that favored exactly Soraka because they blew resources while Soraka just put them back up on top.
And it's funny that you say that they blew resources, because I like to always think about like stats and things as resources towards the champions. And HP is a very valuable resource, especially in the early to mid points of the game. And like you were saying, as these extended fights continued, yes, you saw MGC running out of resources, health, mana, any top possible item activatables and abilities. But this Soraka has this consistent heal on a basic ability that is able to keep people topped off. Plus I think that, and they built Moonstone as well. So you have the passive healing being passed on to other people surrounding them. So it wasn't like Soraka was only healing specifically one person. They were healing who was most important, but other people were able to benefit off of it as well. So it's like as if they knew, again, like I said, I think they knew that they were going to fall behind potentially with this composition. And then they were able to bring it back once they kind of had to wait for that 30 to 35 minute timeline for them to get themselves into the game. So with that much said, we actually do have two members from the side of SSP here ready for interviews. I believe it is Solo Mason and Matt. I'm not sure exactly who is Matt. I'm guessing that is more than likely that's phenomenal. Okay, so we got the bot lane actually, which I feel like a lot of people are like, I already see one call for Solo Mason as MVP. I'm sure people are like, yo, Phenomenal deserves the MVP here. So we're gonna go ahead and get into these interviews. Thank you guys for coming. And once again, congratulations to you guys. Absolutely great play from the two of you, specifically on the side of your team. I feel like you guys were definitely maybe one of the more stronger backbones, or like more consistent members actually throughout the series. So really quickly, if we don't mind asking, like, how do you guys feel about that series?
Mega stressful. Game one, I was feeling good, and I think like after we lost game three, there's always that little seed that gets planted. You could get reverse swept, but our team kept good mental, and even when we were kind of losing in game four, we were very calm and collected, and the fight started turning even when bad stuff happened, and we outscaled them. So good job on our team to be resilient.
Yeah, it's kind of a
and then I
fire
guess
series, low key. Kind of fire.
Okay. And then I was going to address my question over here at Matt, or at Phenomenal, right? So as a fellow support player, when you picked up the Soraka, was that your decision? Did you have any thought process there? Was that something y'all saved sort of at the end, or was it just a happy accident?
Not really a happy accident. I think we came into the series knowing Rucha's really good at Braum, and she's probably gonna pick it. And so I've had that. I played that pick a little bit at the beginning of the split. People stopped picking Braum against me, to be honest. And then I knew it'd come this game because they played it week 9. And then basically I'm just shouting at my team to play for me the whole game.
Well, I think we definitely saw that. I was glazing up to Soraka a whole bunch, being one of my more favored supports in the bot lane. I'm not sure if y'all heard, but in my opinion, Soraka's not a healer. She's a mistakes eraser, and I think you'll see that it favors of the long fights and whatnot. And I think it did a lot there. I think it set things up for solo and, of course, for your mid laner to sort of like get themselves back together. But I'll pass it over to Malco for another question.
I actually wanted to ask Phenomenal. Did you said like how you were screaming at your team to consistently like play around you or to play for you? Was there any points in time during the game where it felt like you were being stressed out as a Soraka? Because like again, you have a lot more single point healing than it is about the mass, like the AoE healing that you would get other than from your ultimate. So like, were you like constantly hearing in the comms like, "Hey, heal me! Hey, heal me!" Like, did it feel like kind of stressful being that support? Because even Koryak feels it like this was a game off the backbone of the late game Soraka being able to sustain people in these fights. Like how you saved Concerned Badger in that top lane fight was absolutely insane. So did you feel like a lot of pressure being on that Soraka?
Not really. My front line is kind of smurfed this game. Like once Udyr has the Spirit Visage and the Jack Show, he's kind of unkillable. And then like Zahin buys so much space against like Braum Sejuani. He gets the free revive. So it's the only person that I'm really in charge of making sure is alive is Mason, and then I have a few seconds at the beginning of the fight to make sure my front line is okay. But like that's why I built Locket Redemption. Those items are so broken against Burst, and yeah, it's kind of a vibe once you have those.
Okay.
Koryak? And I'm going to direct this at Solo. I'm kind of curious, when you sort of look at your team as a whole and you look at yourself, is there anyone on your team who you think has made the biggest improvement from the start of the season to right now? Like, who are you the most proud of on your team? Whether it's you, whether it's your support, like who in general?
Definitely not me. I'm still the same system player that everyone knows and loves. But I mean, I could shout out everybody, to be honest. I mean, from where Matt and I started, we put in the time. We duo queued forever, and it's the improvement that he's had. Learning range supports. It was definitely bumpy for a while, but we stuck with it. It's kind of the meta for bot lane. You just play range supports and you go from there. But I mean, I want to shout out the top lane, Pickle. He's the other half of the solo Pickle, but like, he is definitely much better than what his rank is, and I think people give him, not enough credit.
And I think I can agree with that. I was don't get me wrong, there was times where I was giving Pickle a little bit of a hard time during cast, I'll admit, but it definitely like it worked out in multiple ways. And I really do see like how overall like the team itself has probably made a lot of, I'm sure you guys have had a couple missteps, even with only one loss. I'm sure you guys have learned from maybe different, like maybe you guys like lost a game in series or things like that along those lines. So if there's anything, the last thing I want to ask you guys, is there any kind of shout outs that you guys want to give to anybody? It could be to the enemy team, it could be to, any other people, maybe any fans of yours. We didn't have as much of the copy pastas going on this time around in the chat, so I was kind of surprised and I see so many of them. So if there's anybody you guys want to shout out, please by means do so, please.
Yeah, shout out Jake. We didn't need the bans anyway, apparently.
Oh, jeez.
True.
But for real, I do want to shout out Kabas. I asked him, him and I kind of go back in league, and I asked him to coach the team, and it was his first like real non-positional coaching. And I think he did really well. Obviously, there's some lessons to be learned on both sides from from him, from us. Also lost because this team wouldn't have been a thing without him and Tom putting it together. So shout out to them.
No, and I think this is SYN also winning another one of Titan series, if I remember correctly. You guys have SYN overall as a brand, kind of. You guys have now Titan Olympus. I believe you guys are one with SYN Jet 2 Holiday. Now Titans Eternal here with SYN Solo Pickle. Have you guys won any other ones? I'm not sure if there's any.
Soon to be risen, the Saturday Emerald League.
Calling that shot.
And then of course soon to be conquered when SYN 6 wins. But yeah, I mean Badger literally just won Olympus on Friday, and got MVP of that league, got MVP of this league. He's just collecting the rings.
Yeah, but he's out here calling up for you to be the MVP of this particular series, and I wouldn't be surprised if anyone else would I don't think anybody else would really disagree. Again, I felt like the bot lane for SYN Solo Pickle was probably the most consistent of the team overall for the team throughout all 4 of those games. Even in the game 3 where things seemed kind of dire, you were still one of the more shining bright stars of that particular series or that particular game. So I think that overall, if they said Solo Mason for MVP, I wouldn't be surprised. They said phenomenal for MVP. I wouldn't be surprised. But with that much said, guys, you guys have done your shout outs. It's probably a little bit of a late night for you guys, depending on where you're at. I know it's midnight over here on the East Coast. Once again, Solo Mason, phenomenal. Thank you guys for joining us here on the casting desk for the interviews. We greatly got. Well, I want to say greatly appreciate the Great League of Legends that you guys allowed for us to cast tonight. Koryak, thank you for stepping in for Fel for tonight and being able to be available. I know with going from play by play to color can be a little bit difficult, even so it's definitely one thing that I'm grateful that I got to cast with you. It's been a fun experience, and I'm hope it's also been fun for you as well.
Absolutely. I've had a blast. I don't normally do color, like I said, so hopefully I didn't step on my toes too much, but I'll pass it over to Malco to close this out.
And really quickly, unfortunately, my headset ended up dying in the middle of all that. I'm like sitting
Fantastic.
here trying to get it to like work for a second. I'm so sorry.
steal it
Technical
from you.
difficulties,
I'll
like
steal
as
it
if
from
we
you
don't
real
have
quick,
that
but
enough on the pod. So real quick, I'm so sorry for the I'm so sorry, Koryak. If you don't mind, just like repeat yourself
yeah,
real quick, and then we can get from this.
yeah. I'll go ahead and close it out since we're having some sort of issues. I really appreciate everybody showing up. Both the fans, all the teams, everybody who has played. Thank you so much between SSP and everyone who's gone out. It's been absolutely phenomenal to cast. I've been able to do Titan a couple of times, coming in a little bit of subbing here from this, so I've been really enjoying it. I've really enjoyed casting over here with Malco. I've enjoyed the experience here when it comes to color casting. But remember everyone, this has been Titan Esports, and there's always more games that you can involve yourself in. And if you like what you see here, maybe try to submit a team, look for an opportunity. It's not as hard to get in here as you think it could be. But either way, I've been Korak, one of your hosts for the evening. I was joined by Malco, and we've of course had Siobhan on prod, but most importantly, this has been Titan Esports.